Chapter 658. Boss Ma shook his head and said, I don't know if you're stupid or not, but I'm about to deposit my money. What? Boss Ma, are you crazy? The onlookers also looked at Boss Ma. Crazy? I'm not crazy. You should know that I've traveled extensively for many years. Jidongqian Bank has a branch in the west, but it has a weird name. Now, it has finally opened a branch in the east. I can deposit my spirit stones there and withdraw them at any time. Moreover, I can withdraw them from any Jidongqian Bank. Most importantly, I get 24% interest every year. Boss Ma said confidently. 24%? Everyone's expression changed. That's right. For example, if I deposit 100 spirit stones and withdraw them at any time, I'll be able to withdraw 124 spirit stones in just 1 year. That means that I can withdraw 2 spirit stones as interest every month. I can use them however I want. Do you know? I don't even earn that much in a year's business. Sometimes I even lose a lot. Now, as long as I deposit my spirit stones, I can withdraw them at any time. Isn't that great? Boss Ma said excitedly. Hiss. The onlookers gasped. Who doesn't have some spare cash? 24%? Really? A cultivator said immediately. No, why would he give us 24% interest? If he doesn't make money, why would he give us money? Another cultivator said in disbelief. The onlookers nodded at the cultivator's words. Boss Ma smiled and said, That's what I was about to say. He also has a way to make money. Oh. The onlookers looked at Boss Ma. Loans. As long as you provide the relevant information or mortgage the corresponding items, such as magical weapons, medicinal pills, secret books, divine weapons, materials, etc., you can borrow spirit stones from the East Money Bank. It means that if you're short of money, you can ask the East Money Bank. They will lend you money, but you have to pay some interest. The interest is the spirit stones earned by the East Money Bank. Boss Ma said confidently. Interest? How much can it be? Someone said in disbelief. Ha ha ha. Many a little makes a mickle, and many a little makes a mickle. There will always be people who are short of money. Once the loan becomes a habit, there will be an endless stream of people who will pay interest. Part of the interest will be distributed to us, and the other part will be earned by the East Money Bank. Boss Ma said with a smile. But I keep feeling that it's a little unreal. Everyone shook their heads in disbelief. Everyone, I'll take my leave first. Boss Ma ignored the crowd and walked in. When Boss Ma entered the East Qian Bank, there were many others who entered the Qian Bank as well. He was officially saving money. Some rich people also entered with a trace of curiosity and saved a little. The audience watched the performance, and some of them looked at Qian Xing in disbelief. On the second floor of East Money Bank, Yin Chuan led everyone to watch the discussion below. Meow, Yin Chuan, these people don't believe you. Meow said curiously as it gnawed on the spirit stone. You don't believe me? This is just the beginning. 24% interest is something that even immortals would go crazy over. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Even immortals go crazy? Meow didn't understand. But with people's distrust, it's going to be hard to start. MOU, she said worriedly. Don't worry. After a month, the 24% interest is the greatest trust. This is just the beginning. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Your Majesty, you are nurturing the desire of the people in the first Kai city. Yifeng said with a smile. Desire is the devil. This is just the beginning. The best is yet to come. Yin Chuan said with a smile. No matter how deserted the front door was, the first East Qian Bank in the first Kai city bought half a street and opened a huge shop. In the first Kai city, this might just be a joke, a business that many people saw as a fool's shop. Everything started to change a month later. A month later, the fool's shop became even more foolish. That was because the first batch of people to save money had received interest. Heavy interest. An interest that made the hearts of the depositors beat wildly. Chapter 659. Opening of a city. A small restaurant. The interior of the restaurant wasn't big, and most of the customers were regulars. Although there wasn't much business, it was still stable. At this moment, a man in a green robe walked to the counter. Pa! The man in the green robe slammed a spiritual stone on the counter. Boss, today's drinks are on me. The man in the green robe said proudly. The moment the man in the green robe spoke, the restaurant went silent. Everyone looked at the man in the green robe. Zhang Xiao, it's you? You're rich? You're treating us? Zhang Xiao, you're treating us? Since when did the stingy Zhang Xiao become so generous? Everyone was familiar with the man in the green robe. Naturally, they recognized him at first glance, but they were more surprised. I said treat, so it's a treat. Boss, serve everyone. Zhang Xiao smiled. All right. The boss received the spiritual stone and was naturally overjoyed. Zhang Xiao also found a table and sat down confidently. Zhang Xiao, what's going on? Why are you so generous? Did you strike it rich? Yes, Zhang Xiao. We meet every day, but I don't see you in any trouble. Yeah, what's going on? Everyone looked at Zhang Xiao curiously. Zhang Xiao drank a bowl of wine and said proudly, thank you for your care in the past. I, Zhang Xiao, have always remembered it in my heart. Recently, I did find a source of income and earned some money. I'm treating everyone to a drink. Source of income? What source of income? Zhang Xiao, you have to think of your brother. If possible, give me some advice. Everyone's eyes lit up, including the restaurant boss. They all pricked up their ears. Actually, there's no harm in telling everyone, because this source of income, I can't make it all by myself. Zhang Xiao smiled. Oh, everyone perked up. Do you still remember the Jidong money shop? Zhang Xiao smiled. Jidong money shop? That stupid shop? That Jidong money shop that rented half of the first city's most prosperous district, that Jidong money bank, where there are so many people coming in and out every day? Everyone's memories were still fresh in their minds. After all, the busiest street, half a street in new businesses. No one would forget it after hearing it once. That's right. It's the Jidong money shop. A month ago, I went in with Boss Ma to deposit money. I clenched my teeth and saved 100 mid-grade spirit stones. Zhang Xiao said, are you crazy? That's half of your wealth. Someone shouted, yes, I thought I was crazy at that time, but this morning I found out how wise I was. It's been a month. According to reason, I should be able to withdraw some interest. I want to withdraw it. The East Qian Bank gave me 2 mid-grade spirit stones as interest. Zhang Xiao said, 2 mid-grade spirit stones? That's right. I worked hard for a month and could only earn 1. But I saved up money and did nothing. I earned 2. 2? Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiao said excitedly. That's not right. Zhang Xiao, you were cheated. You saved 100, but you only took back 2. Zhang Xiao smiled and said, Brother Wang, I know what you're thinking. I was also worried at that time. So, I asked the Jidong money shop to take back all the spirit stones. Well then. Chapter 660. Then, Jidong Money Bank gave me back my spirit stones. 100 spirit stones, not a single one less. Zhang Xiao said with a smile. Really? They gave it to you just like that? Everyone was surprised. Of course, they gave it to me directly. I went out of Jidong Money Bank with 102 spirit stones. I was dumbfounded for a long time. Then I thought about it and realized that something was wrong. Why would I take them out? Wouldn't it make money every day if I put them in there? Zhang Xiao suddenly said, I went in immediately and saved them. In the future, I'll have 2 spirit stones every month. Isn't that great? Zhang Xiao said with a smile. In a small restaurant, everyone was silent, as if they were trying to figure out whether Zhang Xiao was right or not. Why would I lie to you? I thought I saved too little. Next door, Wang Sanma also saved 1,000 spirit stones. I thought he was crazy, but this morning he received the interest of 20 spirit stones. He's counting the money alone at home. No, after drinking, I'm going to his house to eat. Ha ha. Zhang Xiao said excitedly. After drinking, Zhang Xiao was about to go out excitedly. Boss, remember, everyone's bill today is on me. After saying that, Zhang Xiao rushed out of the door. Everyone in the restaurant was left behind in silence. The interest of 24% was too high. Although some people suspected that Jidong Money Bank was fake, they still couldn't bear it. From a second month onwards, the number of people coming to Jidong Money Bank began to slowly increase. Although many people were still worried The heavy spirit stones made many people jealous and showed a trace of greed. On the second floor of Jidong Money Bank, Yin Chuan led everyone to see the increasing number of customers. Your Majesty, 24% interest is too high, Yifeng said with a smile. 24% is more than high. It's crazy. That's why I said that even immortals would go crazy, Yin Chuan said with a smile. Meow. I just calculated. 24%. If it's more than 4 years, you'll have to pay them double the spirit stones, right? Won't you suffer a loss? Meow suddenly shouted. Haha. Meow also knows how to calculate? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Meow, you're losing money. For years later, you'll still have to pay for it. Meow yelled. Meow had signed a contract with Yin Chuan, so she was bound to follow Yin Chuan. Therefore, she had a share of Yin Chuan's spirit stones. She was worried that Yin Chuan would lose all the spirit stones that she wanted to eat. She hugged Meow and laughed. Who said anything about paying? That set of rules was just a lie. Did you really believe it? Their interest is actually their spirit stones, deducted from their own spirit stones. Meow? Meow was confused. It's like if they deposit 100 spirit stones. We take out 2 of them every month and return them to them, telling them that it's just interest. Actually, we don't need to spend a single spirit stone. She said with a smile. Meow? You don't need to spend a single spirit stone? Meow's eyes widened. But what if they don't save anymore? Meow suddenly shouted. At this time, who would be willing to not save? She said with a smile. Yes, no one would be willing to. But 4 years later, what about 4 years later? 4 years later, all their money will be returned as interest. There won't be any more money for them. At that time, won't something happen? Meow was puzzled. Ha ha ha, for years? With them as role models. Won't more people come to save? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Chapter 661. Meow's eyes kept blinking, as if she thought of something. 4 years later, we can use other people's money to fill this hole? What are you afraid of? There's an endless stream of money coming in every day. As long as we have money, we can give interest. Using other people's money, we can return other people's money? She laughed. Meow. Meow finally understood. Her eyes lit up. There is no end to this, Yin Chuan. You are too smart. I want to eat spirit stones. I want to eat spirit stones. Meow shouted excitedly. The first month, the second month, the third month. As time passed, the interest earned by the cultivators increased, and the number of people saving also increased. Jidong Qian Bank was no longer a fool's shop, but a money tree in many people's eyes. As long as money was put in, money could make more money. As for Zhang Xiao'er, he invested all his money in it. Those cultivators who used to run around for spirit stones in the past now ate the best pills every day, used the best treasures, and their spirit stones increased continuously. This immediately stimulated more cultivators to go to Jidong Qian Bank. Of course, as they saved more money, they could not help but have some ideas about Jidong Qian Bank. But there was an array outside Jidong Qian Bank. As long as they touched the array slightly, thousands of cultivators would chase after them, making Jidong Qian Bank even more secure. Money, money, money. More and more people like this kind of life. Similarly, Jidong Qian Bank also started to lend money to cultivators who were short of money. Although the interest earned from the loans was very little, it was not important because Jidong Qian Bank had now gained a firm foothold in the first opening city. First opening city, City Lord's Mansion. An old man sat in the main hall of the City Lord's Mansion. He was a God Realm warrior from the Great Winged Heaven School. His name was Wang Qingshan. Wang Qingshan's face was clean, his hair was black, but the wrinkles on his face showed that his cultivation was not smooth. Wang Qingshan was reviewing a book of data. A group of men sat beside him, also calculating the data. Master, this year we can't increase our tax revenue compared to last year. If we give the same tax revenue to the sect, they won't be able to give us any rewards after the sect evaluates us. We can't increase our spirit stones. A man sighed softly. Wang Qingshan frowned and said, There's nothing we can do about it. There's only so much income from taxes and rent in the city. It's already the limit to maintain 100,000 high-tier spiritual stones a year. How could it increase again? If we add another 10,000 high-grade spirit stones, we will be rewarded by the sect. But where will the spirit stones come from? The disciples sighed softly. Master, good news, good news. Immediately, a man rushed into the main hall. What is it? Why are you panicking? Wang Qingshan said in a deep voice. Master, a merchant association wants to meet you. They want to give us 50,000 high-grade spirit stones. Master, do you want to meet them? The disciple asked excitedly. 50,000? Where did the 50,000 come from? Wang Qingshan's spirits were instantly lifted. They want to rent the land on Mount Bishui for 300 years. All the rent will be paid in one go. 50,000 high-grade spirit stones. The disciple said, What? Who is it? Crazy? They want to rent that piece of land that no one wants for 300 years? 50,000 high-grade spirit stones? A disciple said excitedly, Yeah, 300 years at once. Will there be any problems? Another disciple said. Wang Qingshan frowned and looked at the disciple. I dare not hide it from you, master. The Merchant Association is called the #1 merchant association in the world. Not only did they promise to rent the land for 300 years and pay 50,000 high-grade spirit stones, they're also willing to give you 50,000 high-grade spirit stones as a personal bribe. The disciple said, 50,000 high-grade spirit stones. That was the income of the first half of the year. That was 5 million middle-grade spirit stones and 500 million low-grade spirit stones. 500 million low-grade spirit stones? That was bribery, but the amount of bribery was too terrifying. Not only Wang Qingshan, but the other disciples were breathing heavily at that moment. Crack! Wang Qingshan crushed the pen in his hand. Take me to them. Wang Qingshan shouted immediately. Chapter 662. A few months later, the city opened for business. It was still the same small restaurant. Ever since Zhang Xiao, who brought everyone to the East Money Bank to deposit money, everything had returned to normal. Boss, 2 jugs of 6 Immortals wine. I'm so tired. A voice came from behind the counter. Zhang Xiao, you haven't been here for a long time? The innkeeper was surprised. Zhang Xiao found a place to sit down. Yeah, Zhang Xiao, where have you been recently? Zhang Xiao, this wine is on me. Thanks to your guidance last time, all our money has been deposited in Jidong Money Bank. This brother has also collected interest. Jidong Money Bank is really a money tree. A burly man sat down with a smile. When the burly man spoke, everyone looked at Zhang Xiao gratefully. Then congratulations, big brotherly, but I can't get any interest now. Instead, I have to pay Jidong Money Bank every month. Zhang Xiao smiled bitterly. Why do you owe Jidong Money Bank money? Did Jidong Money Bank go back on their word? Did they take your money? Big brotherly glared at him. Not only big brotherly, but everyone's face changed. Everyone had money in Jidong Money Bank. If Jidong Money Bank didn't pay them, wouldn't they be in trouble? No, Jidong Money Bank is still the same, but I took a loan from Jidong Money Bank. Zhang Xiao laughed. When Zhang Xiao said that, everyone sighed in relief. Loan? How much did you take? Big brotherly was puzzled. 75 high-grade spirit stones. Zhang Xiao said proudly. What? Are you kidding me? Zhang Xiao's entire fortune, including all your treasures, and even if you sell your ancestral grave, you can only get 10 high-grade spirit stones. Is Jidong Money Bank stupid? Lend you 75 high-grade spirit stones? Aren't they afraid that you'll run away? Big brotherly exclaimed. Yeah, you only have so little money. If you donate it and run away, who can do anything about it? Everyone shouted. Who said I'm running away? This time, I'm not alone. My boss, Boss Zhang, took the loan with me. 75 high-grade spirit stones, plus interest, spread over 300 years. It's enough to pay back 100 high-grade spirit stones. 300 years, big brother, and I will pay it back slowly. Zhang Xiao laughed. 300 years? In total, you and your elder brother will each receive more than 1 mid-grade spirit stone every month. This pressure isn't small, Big Brotherly said. Fortunately, it's still within my acceptable range. Just kill a few more demonic beasts. Zhang Xiao'er said. Really? But why did you borrow so much money from Jidong Money Bank? Where's the money? Brotherly asked curiously. Zhang Xiao revealed a mysterious smile and said, Big Brotherly, let's test our palms. Well, what is it? It's only been half a month, and your cultivation has increased? Big Brotherly said in disbelief. Everyone watched curiously. Zhang Xiao, and Big Brotherly's palms met, pushing each other hard. When the two palms touched, Big Brotherly realized that something was wrong. Boom, boom. With a loud bang, the two palms separated. Thump, 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 thump. Brotherly took 7 to 8 steps back before he could stabilize himself. Zhang Xiao'er, on the other hand, remained motionless. How could this be? Oldly is at the 5th level of the profound realm, while Zhang Xiao'er is at the 4th level. Oldly can't beat Zhang Xiao. Everyone looked at the two in surprise. How is this possible? Zhang Xiao, tell me what happened. Did your cultivation increase? Half a month ago, you were no match for me. Big Brotherly frowned. Chapter 663. I'm now at level 6 of the essence state. Zhang Xiao said with a smile. What? Half a month? 2 levels in a row? Did you eat an elixir? Brotherly exclaimed. To a cultivator, spirit stones were important, but there was one thing that was more important than money and spirit stones, and that was cultivation. The most important thing was to have a strong cultivation base. 2 levels in a row in half a month? His cultivation speed was simply too fast. Elixir? It's almost the same as an elixir. Besides, I can eat it for another 300 years, and my cultivation will continue to rise. Zhang Xiao said confidently. What's going on? Zhang Xiao, tell me, how did you increase your cultivation? Brotherly asked excitedly. That's why I borrowed 75 upper spiritual stones from the Jidong Bank. Zhang Xiao said with a smile. Oh, everyone pricked up their ears. Do you know the number 1 house in the world? Zhang Xiao said with a smile. The number 1 house in the world? Is it the Chamber of Commerce that's crazy about money? Yeah, what kind of shabby house is that? I can build it in 2 days, and it costs only 2 medium spiritual stones. They're crazy, and they're selling it for 100 upper spiritual stones? The number 1 house in the world? What a joke. Which idiot would buy his house? Although my house is not a cave abode, it's much better than his. They're crazy about money. Zhang Xiao suddenly spoke while everyone was criticizing him. I bought it there. The restaurant fell silent, and everyone looked at Zhang Xiao in disbelief. You spent 100 upper spiritual stones, which is equivalent to 10,000 medium spiritual stones, to buy a house that's only worth 2 medium spiritual stones? Brotherly was stunned. Yeah, why else would I borrow money from the Jidong Bank? Zhang Xiao said. Brotherly, the manager, everyone in the restaurant. Zhang Xiao, are you kidding? Why did you buy that shabby house? Just ask me, and I'll build you a house 10 times better than his. Brotherly exclaimed. Zhang Xiao drank his wine and shook his head. Big Brotherly, it's not like that. You don't know. That house isn't worth much, but there's a huge array there, the myriad spirits array. The heaven and earth yuan qi inside is 10 times denser than outside. 10 times the yuan qi of heaven and earth. Everyone's expression changed. That's right, 10 times. Even the great winged heaven school and the sect leaders' hall are not as rich as this. I can live here for 300 years. After 300 years, no matter how lazy I am, I will at least reach the divine realm. If I work harder, I might even reach the virtual realm. Zhang Xiao said with certainty. After Zhang Xiao finished speaking, almost everyone's heart thumped wildly. Emptiness realm? Perhaps in the eyes of many, that was an unattainable height. Even the immortal state was extremely illusory. However, if what Zhang Xiao said was true, 10 times the yuan qi of heaven and earth was no longer illusory. It was absolutely possible, absolutely possible. To a cultivator, cultivation was always the most important thing, even if it meant going bankrupt. Because once one's cultivation reached a certain level, they would have everything. How did Jidong Qianheng agree to lend you 75 top-grade spirit stones? Brotherly looked at Zhang Xiao. Everyone knows the rules of Jidong Qianheng. You have to apply for a loan first. I applied for it and gave you the reason. At first, I asked for a loan of 100 top-grade spirit stones, but Jidong Qianheng refused. They said that I could get a loan from the best house in the world, but I had to gather 25 top-grade spirit stones first. Only then could I get a loan of 75 top-grade spirit stones. I thought about it, gritted my teeth, called my boss, sold all my belongings, and borrowed some from my friends and relatives. Finally, I got the money. Jidong Qianheng successfully got the loan and supervised my purchase of the house to prevent me from using it for other purposes. Zhang Xiao thought about it and said, Chapter 664. Is Jidong Qianbang stupid? Isn't he afraid that he won't get his money back? Isn't he afraid that he won't repay the loan? Someone said, What's there to be afraid of? It's written in the contract that if I don't repay the loan, Jidong Qianbang will take back the house and sell it to someone else. Zhang Xiao said angrily, Then aren't you penniless now? Brotherly smiled bitterly. Yes, Boss Zhang and I bought the house together. Every month, we will each cultivate for half a month. We will work hard to earn money and repay the loan. Zhang Xiao said with a smile. But won't you suffer? Brotherly asked worriedly. Zhang Xiao smiled and said, In half a month, I advance by 2 stages. In 1 or 2 years, I will definitely reach the Qi state. By then, I will earn even more. It will only be hard for the next 2 years. But for the future, I am willing to suffer. Yeah, I suffered even more when I was immortal. Now, I have a bright future ahead of me. Tell me, Zhang Xiao, how did you do it? Is the yuan qi of heaven and earth really 10 times stronger? Everyone looked at Zhang Xiao excitedly. In the first open city, there was a forest. There was a huge valley. At the entrance of the valley, there was a huge sign that said, The best house under heaven. The entire valley was golden. Spiritual qi gathered in all directions to form 5,000 small vortexes. Each of the vortexes corresponded to a luxurious house. Among the 5,000 houses, there was a large hall in the north. Yin Chuan led everyone to look at the empty and desolate valley. The yuan qi of heaven and earth is so dense. What kind of array is this? Moyu, she frowned and asked. This is the 1,000-spirit array. It's not that complicated. Anyone who has studied arrays can set it up in a short period of time. It's just that this array consumes too much energy and no one can afford it. Yin Chuan said with a smile. How many spiritual stones does this valley cost? Moyu, she asked curiously. It consumes 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones every month. Yin Chuan said confidently. 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones every month. Moyu, she asked in surprise. That means we'll lose 10 million low-grade spirit stones in a month? More than 100 million a year? Miao exclaimed. If that's the case, then you're not making any money at all. A house costs 100 upper-grade spirit stones, and you only need to pay 25 upper-grade spirit stones for the down payment. Even if you sell the house for 5,000 upper-grade spirit stones, you'll only get 125,000 upper-grade spirit stones. However, you gave the City Lord's mansion 100,000 spiritual stones. Every year, it will cost you more than 10,000 spiritual stones. At most, it will last for 3 years. After 3 years, you'll have to pay for it. Besides, can you sell 5,000 houses? Moyu, she asked worriedly. Your calculations are not bad. However, I don't expect the number 1 lodging under the heavens to make money. I have the Jidong Money Bank to make money. What if the number 1 lodging under the heavens can make money? Then there would be many people following the trend. I built the number 1 dorm under the heavens just to kidnap the City Lord's mansion. Yin Chuan smiled. Moyu, she didn't understand. Besides, these houses will be the source of the unrest in the first open city. Just wait. I will turn these houses into demons and turn the first open city upside down. Yin Chuan said confidently. Kidnap the City Lord's mansion? Moyu, she frowned. Miss Mo, that day, I put on a wig and went to the city lord's mansion. I knocked the city lord unconscious with 500 million low-grade spiritual stones. I then bribed him with 500 million low-grade spiritual stones. Everyone in the city lord's mansion treated me like a second parent and treated me with utmost care. I asked them to help me advertise. Everyone patted their chests and promised me. He sent me out respectfully, Liu Gang said with a smile. Bribe 500 million? How bold. Mou, she smiled bitterly. 500 million low-grade spiritual stones? That was too much. That's not all. I also promised that if this batch of houses sold well, my #1 dorm under the heavens would continue to build more. In the future, every batch would be of the same standard as this one. I remember that when I left, everyone in the mansion was trembling. Liu Gang smiled. Of course they were trembling. You bribed them with 500 million in one go. How many more times? Just thinking about it made their nerves jump. They were ecstatic. I understand now. You used the utmost East Money Bank to kidnap the people. You used the #1 dorm under the heavens to kidnap the city lord's mansion. You're preparing to kidnap the entire first open city? Moyushi's eyes lit up. Chapter 665. A year passed in the blink of an eye. Liu Gang put on a wig and disguised himself as he arrived at the Castellan Manor once again. Congratulations, Castellan Wang. I heard that Castellan Wang's governance last year was exemplary, and you were rewarded with a large number of treasures by the Great Winged Heaven School. Liu Gang said with a smile. Castellan Wang Qingshan was overjoyed. Quick, prepare some good tea for Mr. Liu. Bring the top-grade Immortal Ganoderma over and brew it for Mr. Liu. Wang Qingshan said to a disciple beside him. Yes. The disciple beside him quickly fetched the tea. Ha! Mr. Liu is too courteous. It's all thanks to your #1 lodging house. Without it, how could I be rewarded by the sect? Wang Qingshan said politely. Sipping the top-grade Immortal Ganoderma tea, Liu Gang laughed. Castellan Wang is too humble. With Castellan Wang's promise, the rich families in the city are willing to buy our houses. 5,000 houses will be sold out as soon as possible. This was Yin Chuan borrowing the Castellan Manor's reputation. After all, no one could guarantee that 300 years would not change. Everyone knew how to calculate. However, the Castellan Manor represented the Great Winged Heaven School, and the Great Winged Heaven School had already advertised it. How could it be fake? Could it be that the Great Winged Heaven School couldn't even last 300 years? What a joke. After enjoying the benefits of the #1 lodging house, and with the promise of 300 years, more and more people bought their houses. As for the city lord, Wang Qingshan, he was not a fool. He calculated everything and found that this batch of houses had been sold for 125,000. 100,000 upper spiritual stones were handed over to him and went into his pocket. The rest would naturally be earned by the #1 hostel in the world and the East Money Bank. He couldn't push too hard. The #1 lodging house is indeed worthy of its name. The Yuan Qi there is not inferior to my sect leader's palace. You might not know, but 2 of my disciples from the Great Winged Heaven School bought houses there. Sometimes, even I wish I could have one. Castellan Wang said with a smile. Liu Gang didn't reply. Instead, he smiled faintly and said the first batch is full. Therefore, the #1 lodging house would like to open up another piece of land. What is Castellan Wang's opinion? Oh, the teacup in Wang Qingshan's hand trembled slightly, and the tea almost spilled out. The same rules as last time, 500 million low-grade spirit stones for a 300-year rental, and 500 million low-grade spirit stones for City Lord Wang to take care of his people. How about that? Liu Gang said with a smile. Wang Qingshan's heart thumped wildly again. The world's #1 lodging house is indeed worthy of its reputation. All right, just tell me which piece of land you fancy. There'll definitely be no problem. Wang Qingshan immediately guaranteed. I naturally believe in City Lord Wang. However, there is something that I must remind City Lord Wang. Liu Gang said solemnly. Oh, the #1 Under Heaven Dormitory is happy to work with City Lord Wang. We hope to continue working with City Lord Wang. Lu Gang said sincerely. Of course. Wang Qingshan said affirmatively. 500 million low-grade spirit stones at once. This seat, Wang Qingshan naturally would not give it away. City Lord Wang, I think that once the news of our cooperation reaches the Great Winged Heaven School, many people will be jealous. Of course, maybe I'm thinking too much, Lu Gang said. As soon as Lu Gang said this, Wang Qingshan shuddered. That's right, 500 million low-grade spirit stones. 500 million in half a year? Who wouldn't be jealous? There were many disciples in the Great Winged Heaven School, but they weren't as close as brothers. What I mean is that City Lord Wang should be closer to your master. These spirit stones are endless. No matter how good the sales are this time, 2 months later, I might have to trouble you again. If the sales are good this year, it's normal for me to come here 10 times to discuss the contract, Lu Gang said with a smile. Chapter 666. 10 times? 5 billion low-grade spiritual stones? Pouring money into his own pocket? Wang Qingshan was a little out of breath. At the same time, he realized that he couldn't take the money alone. Not to mention the Immortal State warriors. Even the virtual realm warriors would be jealous. Thank you, Mr. Lu. I will inform my master and ask him to suppress the evildoers, Wang Qingshan said respectfully. Ha ha ha. City Lord Wang is a wise man. This is only 1 year. We will do this every year. We will build a prosperous city, Lu Gang said with a smile. Ha, that's right. Wang Qingshan laughed. While the two were talking, there was a sudden noise outside the hall. Let me in. Let me in. I want to see the city lord. He is my martial uncle. The noise outside the hall was loud. Wang Qingshan frowned when he heard the noise outside. Mr. Lu, I'm sorry. I need to go out for a while, Wang Qingshan said. Okay. Lu Gang nodded. Wang Qingshan soon walked out of the hall. A group of his disciples was blocking 3 or 4 people. Martial uncle, it's me, a man in red said with a smile. What's the matter? Wang Qingshan frowned. I want to buy land. I want to build a house and sell it. I have cracked the array of the best house in the world. Martial uncle, please help me. The man in red said. You want to build the best house in the world, too? Wang Qingshan frowned. Yes. How long are you going to rent it for? Wang Qingshan frowned. Rent? This is the land of the Great Winged Heaven School. I can just borrow it. It is not worth much. Of course, I will give martial uncle 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones for everything. Of course, after the house is sold, the man in red said. Wang Qingshan's face twitched. 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones? That was 10 million low-grade spiritual stones. Wang Qingshan might have turned a blind eye to it before the building of the best house in the world. But now the best house in the world could bring in 10 billion low-grade spiritual stones for the sect in the next year. 5 billion low-grade spiritual stones would go to him. Every time, he would give the money first and take the land later. The best house in the world was so honest. But look at martial uncle in front of him. 10 million high-grade spiritual stones? This was not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. What's more, he was just making empty promises. He would pay after the house was sold. Most importantly, they had disrupted the business of the world's #1 dormitory. What if they stopped investing? Martial uncle, 1,000 upper-grade spirit stones is quite a lot, the red-clothed man said. Wang Qingshan's face twitched. Ridiculous. I'm in charge of the First Gate City. How can I allow you to mess around? If you want to mess around in the First Gate City, get the sect master's personal order first. Martial uncle, the red-clothed man frowned. Go back and cultivate properly. Don't look for trouble. Wang Qingshan frowned and lectured. What's so great about that? I'll go tell my master and let him fight for the position of city lord. The red-robed man turned around and left. Seeing the red-clothed man leave, Wang Qingshan immediately panicked. Lu Gang sat in the main hall and heard everything. Naturally, he understood that the benefits were too great and no one could avoid it. After another half a day, Wang Qingshan sent Lu Gang away with a deep frown on his face. Master, what do we do now? A disciple asked worriedly. This was because there was a large amount of spirit stones to be distributed at this location. No, I'll go look for my master. Wang Qingshan took a deep breath and said, Martial uncle? Isn't he in seclusion? Seclusion? He has to come out even if he's in seclusion. Wang Qingshan's eyes were red with determination. Chapter 667. Ever since Zhang Xiao bought the #1 house in the world, his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He was now at the 9th level of the refined realm, despite the fact that he had to work very hard to repay the loan. Half a month later, it was Boss Zhang's turn to cultivate. Zhang Xiao also came out to make money to repay the loan. Zhang Xiao was in a good mood after reaching LV9 of the Essence Realm. However, the door of the restaurant was closed. Huh? Why is it closed? Zhang Xiao looked at the closed door in surprise. Zhang Xiao, have you finished cultivating? Suddenly, a voice came from beside him. It was Brotherly. Ah, it's Brotherly. I have reached LV9 of the Essence Realm. But what happened to the restaurant? Why is it closed? Zhang Xiao said with a smile. Are you talking about the shopkeeper? He also bought a house for 25 upper spiritual stones. Haha, but it's worth it. He bought the shop and entered the best house in the world. Brotherly said with a smile. Ah, many shops have closed on my way here. Zhang Xiao said with a worried tone. Isn't it because of the price of the best house in the world? All the money has gone to the best house in the world. They can't open anymore. Do you think those shops have no cost? Brotherly said. Ah, so many shops in the premier city are going to close. Zhang Xiao said. Well, maybe, but it doesn't matter to the governor because the rent of the best house in the world is more than the tax of all the shops combined. Brotherly said with certainty. The governor naturally supports the best house in the world. But it's hard for us. Zhang Xiao said with a wry smile. Who said it isn't? I used to be an alchemist. I could help them refine pills, and they would give me a certain amount of spiritual stones as compensation. But now, there are fewer and fewer shops. It's getting harder and harder to earn spiritual stones as compensation. Brotherly said with a wry smile. Other industries are getting harder and harder. It's not that hard. Anyway, it's not as prosperous as before. Brotherly said with a wry smile. Forget it. Let's go outside the city to hunt some demonic beasts and sell them in the city. Zhang Xiao said. Okay, but there are fewer shops now. There are many people like us who hunt demonic beasts and sell them. The price of demonic beasts will be cheaper in the future. Brotherly said with a wry smile. Yes, it's getting harder and harder to repay the loan. Let's go. The two of them left the city together. First opening of the city, to the second floor of East Xian Bank. Yan Chuan looked at Yifeng and said, it's about time. The best merchant house to the east and the best merchant house under the heavens have already established themselves in Kaifeng City. Now, they're starting to spread to the other 100 cities. I want all 100 cities to have the best merchant house under the heavens. Yes, this subject has already made the arrangements. As soon as Your Majesty gives the order, we will immediately sweep through the 100 cities of the Great Winged Heaven School. Yifeng said with a smile. Yan Chuan nodded. However, Your Majesty, when will that plan begin? Yifeng asked curiously. Then let's wait for the East Money Bank and the #1 Under Heaven House to gain a firm foothold in the 100 cities. Once that plan was executed, the entire city would be destroyed in an instant. If it was executed too early, it would be easy to be exposed. Once the foundations of the 100 cities were stabilized, they would execute the plan at the same time, causing the 100 cities to collapse at the same time. At that time, it will be the collapse of the first round. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Yes. Another year passed. City Lord's Mansion. Wang Qingshan frowned as he looked at the new annual income. City Lord, this year, the taxes and rent from all walks of life are only 40,000 high-grade spirit stones. It's less than half of the previous year. A disciple frowned. In the past, the annual income of the city was 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Although the income of all walks of life was reduced by more than half, the best merchant house under the heavens has 500,000 high-grade spirit stones to buy land. The amount we hand in to the Great Winged Heaven School is 5 or 6 times more than before. Another person said, yes, It's enough to have the best merchant house under the heavens. Why do you care so much? Wang Qingshan's frown slowly eased. Yes, he had created 5 times the benefits for the sect. Also, this year, he also had 5 billion low-grade spirit stones in his personal pocket. 5 billion. Although most of it was given to his master to manage everything, he still had a lot of surplus after all. Thinking of this, Wang Qingshan smiled. Those poor people in other industries, let them die. Chapter 668. First city opening, East Money Bank, 2nd floor. Yin Chuan was sitting at a desk, drinking tea while listening to Yi Feng's report. Miao was lying lazily on Mo Yushi's lap, nibbling on spirit stones. Somewhat, Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows in confusion. That's right, Your Majesty. The construction of the 100 cities went smoothly in the beginning. Whether it was the East Money Bank or the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company, everything went smoothly. When the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company expanded again, one of the cities was blocked. Yifeng said solemnly. Oh, who is it? Yin Chuan asked curiously. That was the city lord of Blue Sky City, called Yin Hentian. Yifeng said solemnly. Hentian? Hentian? How much injustice did he have to endure to be able to come up with such a name? Yin Chuan laughed. Your Majesty is considerate, and I did not think too much about the name at first. Perhaps the person who came up with this name has some story behind it. Yifeng smiled. What's wrong with this Yin Hentian? Yin Chuan asked as he sipped his tea. Perhaps he saw something and did not allow the expansion of the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company. In Blue Sky City, he is the city lord, and there are restrictions there. Yifeng said solemnly. He saw it. Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows. Perhaps. He kept saying that the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company and the East Money Bank were colluding with each other and had bad intentions. He kept emphasizing that if this continued, the city would be destroyed. Yifeng said solemnly. Oh, the people of the East Money Bank spent a lot of money to buy this information. That Yin Hentian also emphasized to the people around him that this was a conspiracy against the Great Winged Heaven School. Yifeng took a deep breath. Where did this Yin Hentian come from? People from the Great Winged Heaven School? Yin Chuan asked curiously. He was picked up by Shi Wuya, a lower void stage expert from the Great Winged Heaven School. Rumor has it that when Shi Wuya saw Yin Hentian was already on the verge of death. Shi Wuya helped Yin Hentian, and Yin Hentian woke up. Yin Hentian wanted to repay Shi Wuya, so he stayed in Blue Sky City. Yin Hentian had outstanding ability as well. Blue Sky City, a city that was originally at the bottom of the economic ladder, became the city with the highest tax revenue after 3 years under Yin Hentian's control. Yifeng sighed in admiration. Oh, Yin Chuan's eyes lit up. Your Majesty's plan to collapse this time cannot fail. I have already made the decision and ordered everyone to persuade the city lords to quickly send slanderous words to the Great Winged Heaven School, so that Yin Hentian can quickly disappear from the vicinity of the Great Winged Heaven School. He will have no one to complain to. Yifeng said. Well done. Yin Chuan nodded. Yes, Yin Hentian has been chased out of the Great Winged Heaven School. If there is a chance, bring him to see me. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Yes. Lu Gang went to the city lord's mansion because of this matter, right? Yin Chuan asked. Yes. Shi Wuya, who saved Yin Hentian, is the master of the city lord of our city. Yifeng said with certainty. Good. Yin Chuan nodded. First to open the city lord's mansion. City Lord Wang, I originally came here to rent another piece of land. However, it's difficult now. Someone is slandering us and wants to get rid of the number 1 Under Heaven School. I'm afraid I won't have another chance in the future, Lu Gang said bitterly. What? What do you mean? Someone stopped you? Wang Qingshan's expression changed. Chapter 669. In the past year, billions of low-grade spirit stones had gone through his personal pockets, causing Wang Qingshan to be completely lost in the spirit stones. A few billion a year, not to mention himself, would be enough for a few generations. Moreover, it was increasing every year. Now, someone was blocking his path to wealth. Wang Qingshan was instantly enraged. Yes, our number one hostel in the world has opened in hundreds of cities, and we have to rely on the city lords. However, someone is planning to go to the Great Winged Heaven School and say that he wants to completely ban us. Sigh. Liu Gang said bitterly. Mr. Liu, who is it? Who is it? How dare he? Wang Qingshan shouted. The city lord of Blue Sky City, In Hentian. Liu Gang said. It's him? The kid that master picked up? Bastard, this person wants to go to the Great Winged Heaven School to complain. I must destroy him. Wang Qingshan glared. No, City Lord Wang, don't make a big deal out of this. Otherwise, it will go to the sect master of the Great Winged Heaven School. Liu Gang said. Yes, Mr. Liu is thoughtful. Don't worry, leave this matter to me. With us around, the number one hostel in the world will always be unimpeded. Wang Qingshan said firmly. Okay, then I'll wait for your good news. At the same time, let's finalize the next batch of cooperation. Liu Gang said with a smile. Good. Blue Sky City, City Lord's Mansion. Outside the main hall of the City Lord's Mansion, nearly 1,000 cultivators stood there, looking coldly at a man in a green robe at the entrance of the hall. The green-robed man had a head of long green hair. His forehead was shaped like a crescent, and his skin was sickly white. He had a small mustache, which added to his mature charm. However, at this moment, he was looking up at the sky with a look of unwillingness. In Hentian, did you hear what we said? If you don't get lost, we'll smash you into pieces now. If the people of the number one hostel in the world did not plead for you, you would be dead by now. You want to go to the Great Winged Heaven School? Dream on. With us around, don't even think about it. The crowd forced the green-haired man, In Hentian. In Hentian revealed a bitter expression. I only said a few words about banning the number one dormitory under the heavens, but who would have thought that all of you would know about it? Ha ha ha. City lords of 100 cities. Just for me alone, all the city lords of your cities actually came? Ha ha ha. All of you are rotten. All of you are rotten. The world's number one dormitory? What a great number one dormitory under the heavens. Their movements are too fast. Can't you see? This is a scam targeted at the Great Winged Heaven School. This is an attempt to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. In Hentian smiled bitterly. You're just trying to scare us. Now, get out of the Great Winged Heaven School's territory. We'll send people to watch over you. If you dare to resist, we'll kill you at any time. The group of city lords said coldly. In Hentian shook his head, not saying a word. It was as though he was waiting. At this moment, the city lord of the first open city, Wang Qingshan, flew over. Fellow Taoist Wang. In Hentian looked at Wang Qingshan. It was as though he was waiting for Wang Qingshan. Wang Qingshan landed and stood beside the city lords. He threw a green jade pendant to In Hentian. Smack! In Hentian caught it. This is... In Hentian's expression changed. In Hentian, I've already reported this to Master. Master said that you don't need to keep your promise back then. Take your jade pendant and leave. From now on, you have nothing to do with the Great Winged Heaven School. Also, you're not allowed to take a step into the Great Winged Heaven School. You have nothing to do with the Great Winged Heaven School anymore. All grudges are settled. Wang Qingshan shouted. Ha 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 ha! In Hentian suddenly burst into laughter. His laughter was mixed with too much sadness and bitterness. To think that the dignified In family would be reduced to such a state. The green jade pendant that shook the world was actually abandoned by someone? Ha ha! In Hentian laughed bitterly. In Hentian, are you going to leave or not? Wang Qingshan said coldly. The city lords all looked coldly at In Hentian. Looking at the group of city lords who were about to go crazy, In Hentian let out a maniacal laugh and said, Fine, I'm only staying in the Great Feather Heavenly Sect to repay Shi Wuya's kindness back then. All these years, I've already helped him a lot. Since he said that we're even, then so be it. What does the life and death of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect have to do with me? What does it have to do with me? With a flick of his sleeves, In Hentian stepped into the sky and flew towards the west. Follow him and escort him out of the Great Winged Heaven School. Don't make any mistakes. Wang Qingshan shouted to the disciples. Yes. Many people nodded. Ridiculous, ridiculous. In Hentian seemed to despise these people. He flew towards the west and did not look back. In family? Shaking the world? Tui, this old man is familiar with history. I've never heard of any powerful family in this world. A city lord sneered. Bullshit green jade pendant, Tui. The city lords all snorted in disdain. First opening of the city, Jidong Money Bank, second floor. Your Majesty, In Hentian has been chased out of Blue Sky City. He's heading towards the west. I don't know where he is now. Lu Gang explained the events of that day with a smile. Oh, in family? Yin Chuan frowned. He had never heard of this name before. I've already sent people to look for this person. However, there's no news of him. It's difficult to find him again. Yifeng sighed slightly. Gold will always shine. Just keep an eye on this person in the future. Yin Chuan nodded. Yes, but something interesting happened this morning, Yifeng said with a smile. Oh, Your Majesty, you don't know? Today, a city lord deposited 100 million low-grade spiritual stones into our Jidong money bank. Yifeng smiled. Really? Yin Chuan immediately laughed. Yes, the money that we bribed them actually flowed back. The city lord is going to earn interest from the Jidong money bank. Ha ha! Yifeng laughed. Did the city lord hit his head? The money that we bribed was returned to us? Lu Gang was also shocked. That's right. This morning, I was also shocked by the news. Jidong money bank. Ha ha. Your Majesty is wise. Yifeng smiled. Yin Chuan smiled slightly and said, well, that's a good thing. However, In Hentian's matter can't be ignored. Since one person saw the clues, perhaps others will see the clues next. Yes, we'll definitely pay attention, Yifeng said with a solemn face. It's useless to pay attention. We have to be quick. We have to spread the best under Heaven House as soon as possible. After that, we'll carry out the plan and let the people of the 100 cities go crazy. Yin Chuan said affirmatively. Yes, the two of them immediately responded. Chapter 670. Opening of the first city, Castellan Manor. In the main hall of the Castellan Manor, Wang Qingshan sipped on a cup of tea with a satisfied expression. Master, you have to check the tax revenue every year. Do you still want to do it this year? A disciple asked. No need. Just let me know once you've verified it. Wang Qingshan said nonchalantly. Yes, Master, I've done the calculations. This year, the tax revenue from the first city is only 20,000 high-grade spirit stones. It's only 1/5 of the previous year. A disciple said worriedly. Only 20,000? Heh, 20,000 it is. I don't care about those businesses at all. I have the number 1 hotel under the heavens. This year, it's another 500,000 high-grade spirit stones. Wang Qingshan said nonchalantly. Wang Qingshan didn't know that the number 1 hotel under the heavens had overdrawn the profits of the first city to pay such a high share. Of course, even if Wang Qingshan knew, he wouldn't pursue the matter because the 500,000 high-grade spirit stones would go into his own pocket. Master is wise. I heard from Mr. Liu that next year, the tax revenue might increase even more. It might even be a few times higher than this year, or even 10 times higher, a disciple said excitedly. The teacup in Wang Qingshan's hand trembled slightly as the tea swirled around. It was obvious that he was immersed in Lu Gang's words. Next year's tax revenue would be 10 times higher than this year's? Wang Qingshan's throat moved. His eyes shone brightly. Master, someone came to visit today and said bad things about the number 1 hotel under the heavens. They said. One of the disciples frowned. Arrest them all. Is this something a human would say? Wang Qingshan glared. Yes, I've already imprisoned them. Who do they think they are? The first city belongs to the Great Winged Heaven School. What do they know? Wang Qingshan snorted coldly. Yes, this kind of person deserves to die. Wang Qingshan said coldly. Yes, the first city, East Money Bank, second floor. Yin Chuan stood on the second floor and looked down with a solemn expression. Your Majesty, it's been almost 3 years. Our plan has been completed. 100 cities, the #1 hotel under the heavens, and the East Bank have all been established. We're just waiting for your orders. Yifeng said solemnly. It's time. Let's begin. Yinchuan said coldly. Yes. Yifeng replied solemnly. Zhang Xiao carried a demonic beast and stopped at the entrance of a restaurant. It had been 3 years, and Zhang Xiao had broken through from LV4 to LV10. He was now close to breaking through to the Qi state. It had only been 3 years. In the past, Zhang Xiao would have cried out in excitement. However, recently, Zhang Xiao was not excited in the slightest. Instead, he had a worried expression on his face, and a lot of his long black hair had fallen off. Sigh. Zhang Xiao sighed. At this moment, a man walked out of the restaurant. Shopkeeper Wang, this is a 7-horned beast. I spent a lot of effort to catch it. Take a look. Zhang Xiao said hopefully. Not bad. 7-horned beast, 10 low-grade spirit stones. Shopkeeper Wang nodded. What? 10 low-grade spirit stones? Weren't there 100 of them before? Why are there 10 now? Zhang Xiao exclaimed. Shopkeeper Wang looked at Zhang Xiao and smiled bitterly. Zhang Xiao, you're a regular here. How many people do we have now? Chapter 671. Zhang Xiao looked around and saw that there were many people in the restaurant. Sigh. Now that all the money has gone to the #1 under heaven restaurant, how many people are willing to spend money here? Moreover, there are more and more people coming to deliver demonic beasts. These demonic beasts are becoming less and less valuable. Because you're a regular customer, they will give you 10 low-grade spirit stones. If it is someone else, they will give you 8 at most. Shopkeeper Wang shook his head. Why is it like this? Why is it like this? Zhang Xiao said gloomily. At this moment, another cultivator carried the same demonic beast as Wang Xiao. Shopkeeper Wang, this 7-horned beast, almost died. No matter what, you have to give me 9 low-grade spirit stones. That person shouted. No, at most 8. Shopkeeper Wang refused. Zhang Xiao showed a trace of bitterness. Holding the 10 low-grade spirit stones, Zhang Xiao's heart was filled with depression. He grabbed his scalp, which was becoming less and less hairs. What should I do? This month's loan repayment date is approaching. Why is it so difficult to earn spirit stones now? Zhang Xiao said with a bitter smile. Zhang Xiao. Suddenly, a voice called out to Zhang Xiao. Brotherly, why are you here? Zhang Xiao said in astonishment. Sigh. I have been refining pills in the Alchemy Institute for a long time. They're only giving me 1/10 of the previous payment. Only 1/10? How can I repay the loan? Brotherly lamented. Only 1/10? They are slandering you? No, everyone is paying the same price. Many people went to apply. That shopkeeper is someone I know, so he gave me a chance. Brotherly said sadly. Sigh, that's right. It was fine in the past. Why is it so difficult to earn spirit stones now? We still have 297 years. Zhang Xiao said sadly. Why don't we leave this place? I can't take it anymore. Brotherly said. Leave? Then we don't want the house. Also, my brother and I have already paid 25 high-grade spirit stones. I can't leave. Zhang Xiao said bitterly. The two of them walked back to the #1 under heaven restaurant. Why are there so many people there? Brotherly asked curiously. Let's go and take a look. Zhang Xiao immediately rushed forward. The crowd is surrounding a notice board. Really? Really? Can you represent the world's #1 dormitory? That's great, that's great. We're saved. Sound of excitement could be heard from the crowd. Then, everyone quickly left. Zhang Xiao and Big Brotherly gathered around and looked at the plaque. Big Brother, is this true? Zhang Xiao was ecstatic. Beside the notice, a white-robed man explained the situation and nodded. As long as I persuade one person to buy a house, all his money will be mine? Zhang Xiao exclaimed. The white-robed man nodded with a smile. That's right, 25 high-tier spirit stones is the down payment. You should know that as long as you find someone, all 25 high-tier spirit stones will be used to pay off your loan. Is there really such a thing? Really? Zhang Xiao said excitedly. The white-robed man smiled. Of course, The City Lord's mansion has also helped us send out notice. You can go and take a look. Do you still not believe in the reputation of the world's #1 restaurant? I believe you. I believe you. It's just that I'm pleasantly surprised. The owner of the world's #1 restaurant is too considerate. Zhang Xiaoer said excitedly. As long as you persuade one person to buy our house, all your loan payments will be reduced by a quarter. In other words, if you persuade 4 people, this house will be yours for the next 300 years. Do you understand? From then on, no one will ask you to pay off your loan. The white-robed man said with a smile. Chapter 672. Understood, understood. That's great. My brother and I bought the house together. As long as my brother and I each find 2 people to buy the house, I won't have to pay back my 300 years of debt. That's great. That's great. Zhang Xiaoer shouted as if he had lost his mind. Everyone, let's hurry up and find the people. The man in white laughed. Yes, yes, yes. Zhang Xiaoer ran home excitedly. At home, Ba Xiang was cultivating. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaoer ran in. Brother, good news, good news. 3 days later, Zhang Xiaoer brought a few jars of wine to the entrance of a cave. Second uncle, I'm here to see you. Zhang Xiaoer walked over with a smile. At the entrance of the cave, a middle-aged Taoist was inhaling and exhaling yuan qi. He looked at Zhang Xiaoer. Ah, isn't this Xiaoer? You even brought so many gifts? You know how to be filial. The middle-aged Taoist laughed. I'm here to see second uncle. Of course, I can't come empty-handed. Zhang Xiaoer laughed. 3 years ago, you borrowed money from me to buy a house. Now you bought it? The middle-aged Taoist laughed. Of course. This is also the reason why I came to see second uncle. That house is great. Second uncle, come and live with us. Zhang Xiaoer said excitedly. Oh, is the #1 hostel under the heavens really that good? The middle-aged Taoist laughed. Of course. Well, it's a good thing that you have a good starting point. The future generations of the Zhang family will depend on you. As for that house, I won't be going. I'm fine now. The middle-aged Taoist laughed. No, no, second uncle, you must go. Otherwise, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Zhang Xiaoer tried to persuade him. Another 3 days later, Zhang Xiaoer met the manager of the #1 hostel under the heavens again. My second uncle bought it for 25 upper-grade spirit stones. Now, Zhang Xiaoer looked at the manager expectantly. Congratulations, fellow Taoist Zhang. Your brother has also found someone to buy my #1 house under the heavens for a total of 50 upper-grade spirit stones. We have already helped you hand it over to the East Money Bank. From now on, your monthly loan will only be half of the original amount. The manager smiled. Really? Zhang Xiaoer excitedly ran to Zhidong Qian Bank to inquire. When he walked out of East Qian Bank, Zhang Xiaoer's entire body was trembling. That's great. That's great. I've only pulled one person over. As long as I find another one, all of the loans will be gone. That's right. All of them will be gone. I won't have to repay the loans anymore. Zhang Xiaoer said excitedly. 2 days later, Zhang Xiaoer once again brought the wine to a secluded valley. Master, your disciple has come to see you. Zhang Xiaoer smiled as he walked into the valley. The valley was quiet, and an old Taoist was practicing some kind of fist technique. When Zhang Xiaoer came in, the old Taoist smiled. Waiter? Ha! You haven't come to see me for many years. The old Taoist laughed. Yes, disciple was wrong. Disciple is here to apologize. Ha! Disciple bought a house and invited master to have a look. Zhang Xiaoer laughed. Half a month later, Zhang Xiaoer and Boss Zhang went to a restaurant extravagantly. Big brother, that's great. Our loans have been cleared. All of the loans have been cleared. All of them. Zhang Xiaoer was very unhappy. That's good. From now on, you and I are brothers. Cultivate well. Boss Zhang said. Yes, cultivate well. Zhang Xiaoer nodded. Zhang Xiaoer's debts were cleared. However, because Zhang Xiaoer's debts were cleared, another 4 people were trapped by the #1 hotel under the heavens. The original debt increased by 4 times in the blink of an eye. This debt was like a rolling snowball, growing bigger and bigger. 1 became 4, 4 became 16, and 16 became 64. A policy of a #1 hotel under the heavens suddenly swept through the first Kai city like a plague, crazily sweeping through hundreds of cities. It was unstoppable. The 100 cities all went crazy. More and more people were dragged by their relatives to buy houses. The #1 hotel under the heavens was expanding crazily. At the same time, the city lords were going crazy at this moment. In the first Kai city, Wang Qingshan saw Lu Gang walking over. "Mr. Lu, you're expanding again? The #1 hotel under the heavens is expanding again?" Wang Qingshan was extremely enthusiastic. Moreover, Wang Qingshan personally poured tea for Lu Gang. "City Lord Wang, I hope you can spread the word more," Lu Gang said with a smile. Of course, Wang Qingshan said excitedly. "If someone objects," Lu Gang frowned and said, "I'll kill him with my own hands," Wang Qingshan promised. Chapter 673. First Open City. Mayor's Mansion. "Master, a few more people came to cause trouble today. They're bad-mouthing Best Under Heaven and East Qian Bank," a disciple reported. "Where are they?" Wang Qingshan glared. "They've all been locked up by me," the disciple fawned. Well done." Wang Qingshan nodded. "Master, I've also bought a house. The Best Under Heaven is indeed not bad." The disciple laughed. "Oh, ha. I've given you so many spiritual stones. It shouldn't be difficult to buy a house." Wang Qingshan laughed. "I didn't spend much money. I asked a few seniors to buy it for me. The 300 years of interest is waived." The disciple laughed. "Disciples of the sect, are there many who bought it?" Wang Qingshan asked curiously. "More and more." The disciple laughed. "Buy it. The spiritual stones are in our hands anyway. Don't let the goodies go to outsiders." Ha. Wang Qingshan laughed. "Master is truly wise. When Master first brought us to the first open city, we had some complaints. But now we realize that Master was right. Staying in the first open city is much wiser than staying in the sect. As far as the disciples are concerned, having spirit stones stored in the East Money Bank means that the interest we earn every month is many times higher than staying in the sect. Even when I deposit the interest again, the interest is more than what the sect gave us." The disciple laughed. Ha. Wang Qingshan was proud. First open city, East Qian Bank's second floor. Yanchuan looked at the originally bustling street. At this moment, leaves were flying in the air. A gust of wind blew past, making it look extremely bleak. The originally bustling street was now deserted, and many shops were closed. Only East Qian Bank was busy every day. "Your Majesty, the plan this time is too vicious." Furthermore, he forced everyone to be helpless. Yifeng sighed. Yanchuan nodded. City Lord of 100 Cities, many people have put their spirit stones back into the East Qian Bank. Our East Qian Bank is the biggest beneficiary. Everyone in the city is tempting their relatives to buy a house. By the end of this year, 100 cities will completely collapse. Yifeng said. "Everyone is poor. Everything has become bleak." Yifeng said worriedly. "When 100 cities crumble, the hearts of the people will scatter. When the army of the Great Zhun dynasty arrives, these people will no longer work for the Great Winged Heaven School and will no longer obstruct our army. Furthermore, these 200 million practitioners will follow our army to attack the Great Winged Heaven School. There is no room for mercy in a war." Yin Chuan said solemnly. "I understand. If we are merciful today, we will definitely plant the seeds of destruction for De Zhun in the future." Yifeng sighed. "Don't worry. These spirit stones will be taken from the people. When 100 cities becomes De Zhun's territory, we will use them for the people. In the future, we will use these spirit stones to pacify the city." Yin Chuan said solemnly. "Your Majesty is merciful." Yifeng sighed. "We will have Yushi transfer Rosefinch and Xuanwu to protect you and Lu Gang. We will leave the matters here to you. We will prepare the next plan." Yin Chuan said solemnly. "Yes." Yifeng nodded. The first batch of buildings to be built in Zhang Shao'er's house. In Zhang Shao'er's room, Zhang Shao looked at the two elders in front of him. Second uncle. Master, Zhang Xiaoer called out guiltily. Chapter 674. Don't call me second uncle. I'm not your master. The two of them glared at Zhang Xiaoer. If you need money, I'll lend it to you. If you want to buy a house, I'll give you my savings. But what do you take me for? You colluded with outsiders and lied to me? Second uncle glared. Evil disciple, evil disciple. Second uncle, master. What do you think we should do? Zhang Xiaoer knelt on the ground. Go out and earn spirit stones. Before we invite our friends to buy a house, help us pay off the loan. Second uncle said in a low voice. Yes, Zhang Xiaoer wailed. Originally, they only had to pay off one loan. Now, it had suddenly become 4 times. Zhang Xiaoer completely broke down. At least Zhang Xiaoer had some humanity. Those inhumane cultivators even chased their family members out of the house and scolded them, not caring about their family members at all. The entire city was in a state of misery. The people had no way of making a living. Even someone as simple as Zhang Xiaoer had become a beast who cheated his friends and family. What more, those who were cold-hearted to begin with. This trend did not just spread in First Kai City. It spread in hundreds of cities at the same time. There was a kind of pain that made you feel like you were falling into hell. You could not let it go, nor could you throw it away. You could only suffer every day. Be it physically, mentally, or financially, they were all suffering. Everyone was suffering in their hearts. While the people were suffering, the city lord's residence was overjoyed. City lord's residence. Master, there's no more space in the prison. A disciple said worriedly. Wang Qingshan frowned. He could vaguely feel that the situation seemed to have gone out of control. Master, another batch of spirit stones entered the account. Another disciple shouted. Wang Qingshan's initial worry dissipated. Spirit stones. It was fine as long as the spirit stones entered the account. Master, our spirit stones have all been deposited in the East Money Bank to earn interest. It's not just us. I heard that many city lords' money has been deposited in the East Money Bank. Why didn't you deposit yours? Just leave it there, and it's enough to earn interest. A disciple said with a smile. Wang Qingshan shook his head. Vaguely, Wang Qingshan felt that he should not have deposited his spirit stones in the East Money Bank. Plus, his own master, Shi Wuya, didn't store them either. Therefore, Wang Qingshan didn't store them. Instead, he stored them up and used the strongest array to protect them. Cultivators had storage treasures. However, storage treasures were too rare. Only those in the emptiness realm, or at least the intermediate emptiness realm, could create a storage treasure. Moreover, the intermediate emptiness realm cultivator had to be proficient in crafting treasures. The storage space of a storage magic treasure was generally very small. It was so small that it only had a space of a few dozen feet. It was already an incredible storage magic treasure. Moreover, the storage space was not permanent. As time passed, it would continue to shrink. This was also the reason why storage magic treasures were so rare in the world. There were many ancient storage magic treasures that had been passed down, but the space within them was gradually disappearing. Many of his storage treasures were now useless. Hence, Wang Qingshan could not bring his spirit stones with him. That was why he was willing to deposit the spirit stones of countless cultivators in the East Bank. Master, more than half of the people in my great winged heaven school seem to have come to buy a house. The disciple said, one persuading for persuading 16. This speed is indeed fast. Wang Qingshan nodded. One advised for advised 16, 16 advised 64. Coaxing and cheating. The snowball was getting bigger and bigger. However, there were only so many people in a city. There were only 2 million of them. Chapter 675. Finally, when this snowball caught everyone in one fell swoop, the scam could no longer continue. This was because no one could be scammed anymore. No one could be persuaded to buy a house anymore. There were only so many people. How could there be more houses than people? The horrifying loan repayment and loan amount were horrifying. The entire city's economy was in a depression. There was nowhere to earn spirit stones. Finally, the entire city started a riot. The first round of collapse occurred. Ban the #1 brothel under the heavens. Ban loans. City Lord, come out. Return my spirit stones. The huge riot rushed to the City Lord's residence. At the City Lord's residence, Wang Qingshan looked at the countless cultivators surrounding the City Lord's residence. These cultivators all had bloodshot eyes as they looked at the City Lord's residence's floating island with cold gazes. Capture them. The new prison cells are already built. Capture them all. A reckless disciple shouted. Smack! Wang Qingshan slapped that disciple. Master? That disciple said in confusion as he covered his face. Wang Qingshan's hand trembled. 100,000? No. For 100,000 cultivators rebelled. Wang Qingshan said in shock. Capture? That was crazy. Who would dare to capture them at this time? These people were all crazy. Did they not see the roar in their eyes? As long as things did not go well, these people would definitely destroy the City Lord's residence. How many disciples did Wang Qingshan bring? Everyone, Wang Qingshan called out. Wang Qingshan still had some dignity. When he called out, everyone stopped talking and looked coldly at Wang Qingshan. City Lord, release my elder brother from prison. City Lord, release my grandfather. Someone shouted. However, that person was quickly drowned in the wave of debt. City Lord Wang, the #1 brothel under the heavens is a disaster to the sect and the people. City Lord Wang, please make the decision and return all our spirit stones. That's right. City Lord Wang, we want spirit stones. City Lord Wang, please make the decision. Everyone looked coldly at Wang Qingshan. They were not begging, but forcing him. Originally, only 100 people came. However, the group grew to 10,000 in the blink of an eye. Soon, it grew to 400,000. It was not just the first City Lord's residence. 100 cities faced a huge disaster at the same time. I promise that I'll report this matter to the sect and deal with it appropriately. I'll give everyone a satisfactory answer. Wang Qingshan consoled. At the same time, Wang Qingshan knew that he couldn't hold on any longer. He had to ask the sect to step in. Otherwise, no one from the City Lord's residence would be able to escape. 400,000, 500,000, 600,000. More and more Xiozha were waiting for a reply. The City Lords of 100 cities were terrified. The Great Winged Heaven School was a huge palace. Shinkuan Kuroha slowly stopped. A faint smile appeared on his face. Sect leader, bad news, bad news. Someone shouted from outside the palace. Come in. Shinkuan Kuroha's face turned cold. Who? Immediately, nearly 100 people rushed into the main hall. Shinkuan Kuroha narrowed his eyes. What is it? Why are you so flustered? True Monarch Black Feather said in a deep voice. Sect leader, hundreds of thousands of unruly people have besieged the City Lord's residence. Sect leader, hundreds of thousands of unruly people have besieged the City Lord's residence. Sect leader, the unruly people are causing trouble. Unruly people. It seemed that everyone had agreed to talk about the 100 cities Lord's residence. Shinkuan Kuroha raised his eyebrows. At Shinkuan Kuroha's level, Shinkuan Kuroha basically didn't need to manage the 100 cities Lord's residence because Shinkuan Kuroha had many other things to deal with. True Lord Black Feather had to rack his brains to deal with the various middle-level sects, as well as the great Jin dynasty in the world. Cities? 100 cities Lord's residence. What's going on? Shinkuan Kuroha's face changed. Although Shinkuan Kuroha didn't care about the 100 cities Lord's residence, he knew the importance of the 100 cities Lord's residence. He also knew that something big might have happened. Listening to the following narration, Shinkuan Kuroha frowned deeply. Shinkuan Kuroha narrowed his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Ji Dong Qianhang, the world's #1 house. Chapter 676. Squinting his eyes, Shinkuan Kuroha's eyes flashed with a trace of cold light. The East Money Bank? The world's #1 money bank? Yes, what do we do now? Sovereign, the situation is getting worse. The people of 100 cities are clamoring to return the money. What do we do now? Clenching his fist, since that's the case, seize all the East Money Bank. Everyone was slightly stunned. Men, pass down my orders. All the cultivators of the Great Winged Heaven School who are not in seclusion are to head to the 100 cities and guard them well. Don't let anyone enter or leave. Shinkoin Kuroha said in a deep voice. Yes. A person beside him said respectfully. Pass down my orders. Seize all the East Money Bank and deploy them to appease the people of the city. Shinkoin Kuroha said in a deep voice. Yes. Where did the first East Money Bank appear? Shinkoin Kuroha looked at the crowd. In my first open city, a cultivator immediately said, Let's go. This sovereign will follow you to the first open city. Shinkoin Kuroha said in a deep voice. At this moment, Shinkoin Kuroha's face was extremely gloomy. Vaguely, he felt a trace of unease. Leading a large number of cultivators, he flew out of the Great Winged Heaven School in a mighty manner. The 100 cities were the foundation of the Great Winged Heaven School and its source of income. Although the countless cultivators of the Great Winged Heaven School were not loyal to Shinkoin Kuroha's orders, at this moment, everyone knew that the situation was serious and did not hesitate. Quickly assigning tasks, all the cultivators quickly scattered in all directions and scattered to all the cities. First open city. Return my spirit stones, return my spirit stones. Outside the city lord's mansion, there were nearly 700,000 cultivators. The originally arrogant city lord's mansion people were now trembling as they looked at the black mass of cultivators. Too terrifying. At this time, many people did not dare to open their mouths, because these 700,000 practitioners' minds were somewhat abnormal. All of them had ominous glints in their eyes. At this time, if anyone dared to say something wrong, they would definitely be cut into pieces by these 700,000 practitioners. These cultivators were all in the essence state, chi state, and spirit state, and there were many of them. The God Realm martial artists might not care about 25 upper-grade spirit stones, but this time the impact was too great. The God Realm martial artists had disciples, descendants, and a large number of descendants. If each of their descendants had 25 upper-grade spirit stones, this amount would be huge. Even a God Realm expert would not be able to take it. Everyone stared at the city lord's mansion. Wang Qingshan's expression was extremely unsightly. His hands kept trembling. It seemed like the thing that Wang Qingshan did not want to think about really happened. Boom! At this time, more than 100 figures landed in the Castellan manor. Master? Wang Qingshan's face lit up. Wang Qingshan looked at the white-haired old man in surprise. However, the white-haired old man was standing behind another person. Sect leader, sect leader. Wang Qingshan exclaimed in surprise. Shinkoin Kuroha coldly glanced at Wang Qingshan, then turned to look at the 700,000 civilians. It's Shinkoin Kuroha. It's the sect leader of the Great Winged Heaven School. Shinkoin Kuroha is here. The civilians immediately recognized Shinkoin Kuroha. Shinkoin Kuroha, please help us. Shinkoin Kuroha, my spirit stones are life-saving money. Shinkoin Kuroha, please let me return the house. The Great Winged Heaven School's prestige was still there, but Shinkoin Kuroha's prestige was even greater. Shinkoin Kuroha looked at the civilians. Although he disdained these people, he knew that he could not show it. Chapter 677. Enough! Shinkoin Kuroha shouted. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. Shinkoin Kuroha said, Just now, I've already learned about it. As for the spiritual stones you've spent, I'll make the decision to confiscate them and return them to the East Money Bank. Long live the true Lord. Long live Shinkoin Kuroha. The common people all cheered. Boom! Whoosh! Large numbers of Shioja flew towards the East Money Bank. Everyone from Jidong Money Bank was caught in the blink of an eye. What is it? What is it? The group of people from Jidong Qianhang who had been captured struggled in surprise. Reporting There are no spirit stones in the treasury of Jidong Qian Bank. There are only 100 high-grade spirit stones on the table. There are only a few spirit stones on the table. There's no storage. A group of Great Winged Heaven School disciples reported. Where's the money? Great Winged Heaven School's expression changed. Search again. Shinkuin Kuroha's expression suddenly changed. The surrounding commoners looked on in shock. Impossible, Jidong Qian Bank. How can there be no money inside? Jidong Qian Hang. Why is there no money? The people were extremely anxious. Quiet. Shinkuin Kuroha shouted. Shinkuin Kuroha shouted. Everyone looked at Shinkuin Kuroha. In front of Shinkuin Kuroha, there were dozens of bound cultivators. Shinkuin Kuroha narrowed his eyes. Where are the spirit stones from the East Qian Hang? A bound man said, I don't know. You are from Jidong Qian Bank. How could you not know? Shinkuin Kuroha suppressed his anger. True Lord, don't you remember me? 10 years ago, when I went to the Great Winged Heaven School and failed to become a disciple, you told me to continue working hard. I'm from the first open city. I was born and raised here. Last year, in order to pay off the loan, I applied for a job at Jidong Qian Bank. I just joined Jidong Qian Bank last year. I don't know. The man who was tied up shouted anxiously. Shinkuin Kuroha's expression changed as a sense of uneasiness arose in his heart. What about the people who originally came to the East Money Bank? Who was the original owner of Jidong Qian House? Shinkuin Kuroha shouted at the dozens of bound practitioners. Everyone looked over, but there was none. The people from East Qian Hang were all gone. It was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. Shinkuin Kuroha suddenly realized that this Jidong money exchange was a scam. The commoners were waiting for Shinkuin Kuroha to make the decision. However, Shinkuin Kuroha's heart had already sunk to the bottom. Shinkuin Kuroha turned his head to look at Wang Qingshan. Wang Qingshan trembled and said in horror, Sect Master, I don't know. I really don't know. Where's the person in charge of the best under the heavens? Let him come over. Shinkuin Kuroha said in a deep voice. Quick, go get Mr. Liu. Wang Qingshan shouted. A large number of disciples rushed to the management office of the best under the heavens. Soon, another group of bound practitioners was brought over. They are also cultivators born and raised in our first open city. How is that possible? Where is Mr. Liu? Where is Mr. Liu? Wang Qingshan exclaimed. Among the Xiozha that had been captured, there was no Mr. Liu. How could this be? Wang Qingshan said in horror. Shinkuin Kuroha looked at this scene coldly. You mean to say that the original group of people is all gone? Shinkuin Kuroha said coldly. That's right. They must be hiding. They must be hiding. We must find them. We must find them. Wang Qingshan said in horror. Chapter 678. Around them, the 700,000 commoners all felt their moods plummet. Their hearts were filled with panic, as if all of them felt that this was a huge scam. This was too horrifying. If it was true, then this scam was too horrifying. At the same time, in the first batch of rooms in the best lodging house under the heavens, Zhang Xiao'er's figure shuddered as his eyes sprang open. The essence energy? Why did it shrink? That's not right. Where is the essence energy? Where is the essence energy that is 10 times that of my room? It's gone? Why is it gone? Aside from Zhang Xiao'er, countless cultivators came out of their rooms and looked at their surroundings in shock. The originally dense essence energy had returned to normal. How can this be? Zhang Xiao'er exclaimed. Zhang Xiao'er, let's go. Someone called out from not far away. Big brotherly, what's going on? Zhang Xiao'er asked out of curiosity. Earlier, the Great Winged Heaven School's people captured the manager of the best lodging house under the heavens. I did not know what happened at first. Now, the essence energy has disappeared, Big Brotherly said worriedly. What? He was captured? Who wants to destroy the best lodging house under the heavens? I'll fight it out with him. Zhang Xiao said hatefully. Zhang Xiao quickly grabbed his treasure and followed the crowd to the city lord's residence. Originally, only 700,000 cultivators gathered. Now, as the situation spread, more and more cultivators gathered at the city lord's residence. As Shinkuan Kuroha stood at the entrance to the city lord's residence, he felt his scalp tingle as he looked at the increasing number of cultivators outside. 700,000, 800,000, 900,000, 1,000,000, 1,100,000. The number of cultivators continued to increase. The area outside the city lord's residence turned noisy. Shinkuan Kuroha suddenly discovered that the situation exceeded what he could handle. How can it be like this? How can it be like this? Wang Qingshan muttered. Shinkuan Kuroha, please uphold justice. The ordinary people shouted. Shinkuan Kuroha looked at the 1,000,000-odd cultivators with an extremely unsightly expression. Then he turned to look at Wang Qingshan and the others. Why? Why is no one investigating such a major matter? Why didn't anyone report this to me? Shinkuan Kuroha said in a cold tone. Sect master. Wang Qingshan stammered in fear. Shinkuan Kuroha, my grandfather discovered the problem long ago and came to report it. He was captured by Wang Qingshan. Shinkuan Kuroha, my brother also found out. He wanted to report to the sect, but he was captured. Immediately, many commoners cried out. Caught. Shinkuan Kuroha's face darkened. As sect master, it's like this. Those. Wang Qingshan tried to explain. Men, bring all the captured people to me. Shinkuan Kuroha shouted. Yes. Almost 300 shouja were brought over as more and more people watched. The 300 shouja were all covered in wounds and looked extremely pitiful. Grandpa, brother, uncle, uncle, uncle. The sounds of Jiaohu came from the surroundings. When the 300 shouja heard this, they immediately teared up. At the same time, they looked at Wang Qingshan with hatred. I knew that this day would come. I knew that I would report this to the city lord, but he would not allow it. I would report this to the sect master, and he would lock me up. I knew that this day finally came. A man covered in wounds said sorrowfully, You're Huang Bing, the manager of Datong restaurant? Shinkuan Kuroha recognized him. Chapter 679. Ha ha. Sect master has good eyesight. You only went to my restaurant once, and you recognized me. Unfortunately, Huang Bing said with a complicated expression. You saw through me back then? Why didn't you report? Shinkuan Kuroha said seriously. However, he suddenly shut up halfway. Huang Bing had only ended up like this because he wanted to make a report. Huang Bing, how much do you know? Tell me everything. Shinkuan Kuroha said. Huang Bing looked at the trembling Wang Qingshan and then at the white-clad old man behind Shinkuan Kuroha. Suddenly, he revealed a hateful smile. Reporting to Shinkuan Kuroha, although I don't know where the best hostel under the heavens and the East Qianhang went, I know where the spirit stones of all the citizens in the city are. Huang Bing said. The surrounding citizens immediately cried out. Countless cultivators widened their eyes in shock. Excitement appeared on their faces. Oh, Shinkuan Kuroha's eyes lit up. However, I don't dare to say it. I'm afraid that if I say it, I will be beheaded or even killed here. Huang Bing said with a sorrowful expression. Shopkeeper Huang, just say it. If anyone dares to hurt you, we will fight it out with them. Shopkeeper Huang, just say it. Shinkuan Kuroha will uphold justice for you. Shopkeeper Huang, where's my money? The 1,000,000 cultivators looked at Huang Bing expectantly. Shinkuan Kuroha said seriously. Huang Bing, just say it. I promise you that nothing will happen to you. Huang Bing nodded as everyone looked at him expectantly. Everyone, do you know how much the best hostel under the heavens sold for? Huang Bing asked. I know. A batch of 5,000 houses costs a total of 125,000 superior-grade spirit stones. Someone immediately shouted. Huang Bing nodded and continued. Everyone, do you know that 100,000 of the 125,000 superior-grade spirit stones entered the city lord's residence, and the city lord, Wang Qingshan? Buzz. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. In other words, of the 25 upper spiritual stones that you handed over, 20 of them went into the city governor's mansion and passed through Wang Qingshan's hands. Huang Bing continued. Who? Everyone looked at Wang Qingshan. Huang Bing, you're slandering me. Wang Qingshan stammered. Ha ha ha, I'm slandering you? Although the city lord's residence is very secretive, there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Wang Qingshan, these disciples of yours all know about it, right? Shinku and Kuroha, you can check and see if I'm right. Huang Bing guffawed. 25 high-grade spirit stones? There were 20 of them, and all of them were handed over to the city lord's mansion. The common people's thoughts suddenly changed. Their hatred suddenly turned to Wang Qingshan. No, it shouldn't be like this. Wang Qingshan was terrified. Shinkuan Kuroha, the 25 upper spiritual stones were cheated by the Jidong money shop. I don't want them anymore. Shinkuan Kuroha, please return the 20 upper spiritual stones that Wang Qingshan embezzled. Zhang Xiao suddenly shouted from the crowd. That's right. Since you have the money, you should return the spiritual stones to us first. 20 upper spiritual stones. Please, Lord Black Feather. Shinku and Kuroha, please. No, I don't have that much money. I don't have it. Wang Qingshan fell to the ground, trembling. Huang Bing sneered and said, You're lying. You can't fool anyone. You must have hidden it. The city lord's residence might have it. Chapter 680. That's right. Return the money. Return the money. Countless cultivators in the surroundings roared. Shinkuan Kuroha's face darkened. After pondering for a moment, he waved his hand. Behind him, a large number of palaces were lifted. Boom! The surroundings of the city lord residence were razed to the ground. At the same time, a massive formation was revealed. Within the formation, spirit stones were piled up like a small mountain. Long live spirit stones! My spirit stones! My spirit stones are here! The commoners cheered. However, were the spirit stones piled up like a small mountain enough to split among the 2 million people in the city? Before the eyes of the commoners, the spirit stones were quickly lit up. Wang Qingshan trembled as he muttered, I know now, Mr. Liu. You bastard, I was wondering why you all used low-grade spirit stones to settle the bill. So, it's because you want me to not be able to take it away. So it's because you want to scam me. Reporting to the sect leader, we've calculated the total. There's a total of 10 billion low-tier spirit stones. A group of disciples reported. 10 billion low-tier spirit stones? That was only 1 million high-tier spirit stones? In other words, the commoners were only given half a high-tier spirit stone each, and the commoners were cheated out of 25 high-tier spirit stones. Is there any more? Shinkuan Kuroha asked with an awful expression. And no more. Wang Qingshan exclaimed in shock. How is that possible? How can there only be so little? Wang Qingshan, are you tired of living? Shinkuan Kuroha said coldly. Sect leader, please spare me. I still have the same amount of spirit stones back in the sect. Wang Qingshan exclaimed in fear. Even so, a commoner could only return a single high-tier spirit stone. No matter who it was, they knew that it was impossible for them to account for it. What else? Were the spirit stones? Shinkuan Kuroha asked coldly. I really don't have any more. I really don't have any more. Wang Qingshan exclaimed. You're the one in charge of the spirit stones. Where are the spirit stones? Shinkuan Kuroha asked coldly. I gave half of them to the sect. There are still some in the sect's treasury. Wang Qingshan replied. And me, master. Wang Qingshan looked at Shiwuya, who was not far away. Most of it was given to Wang Qingshan as a tribute to Shiwuya, who then took care of it. At this moment, the people watched with cold faces. The prestige of the Great Winged Heaven School was being eroded by waves of hatred. Citizens of the First Open City, just you wait. I, Shinkuan Kuroha, will give everyone justice. When I return to the sect, I will take back all the spirit stones. Everyone will receive the spirit stones according to the original contract. Shinkuan Kuroha promised. Yes, the commoners waited. The entire city searched for news of East Qianhang and number 1 under heaven, but Lu Gang, Yifeng, and the others had long since disappeared. Until 3 days later. Within the city, shopkeeper Huang, one of the Huang soldiers who had been imprisoned in the past, suddenly shouted, Shiwuya, They're escaping with my money. They're escaping. Chase after them. Huang Bing roared. The 2 million citizens almost went crazy in an instant. They quickly followed Huang Bing out of the city. Rumble. All of them grabbed their Dharma treasures, their eyes filled with madness. They surrounded the group of people who were escaping. Although Shi Wuya, Wang Qingshan, and the others had high cultivation, many people were watching them. Even the inner disciples of the great winged heaven school had been screwed over by number one under heaven. How could they let them escape? The lower void realm expert, Shi Wuya, led Wang Qingshan and the other cultivators to escape towards the west with a huge mountain of spirit stones. Soon, they couldn't escape anymore. Only 200 people escaped. However, they were surrounded by 2 million people. Among the 2 million people, there were countless experts. Chapter 681. The Opening of the City. The founder of the number one dormitory under the heavens had disappeared, and the entire city was short on spirit stones. Who would still spend 1,000 high-grade spirit stones every month to set up a formation? For a time, the people who had originally bought the house came out. Every day, they hoped that the great winged heaven school would return their spirit stones. The entire city was waiting. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Within the city, shopkeeper Huang, one of the Huang soldiers who had been imprisoned in the past, suddenly shouted, Shi Wuya, they're running away with my money. They're running away. Chase after them. Huang Bing roared. His voice pierced through the 9 heavens, hoarse and hoarse. The people waiting for the great winged heaven school to distribute their spirit stones suddenly quivered. They didn't need to organize themselves at all. They took out their Dharma treasures and rushed out. Over there, quick, over there. The city's vigorous encirclement and suppression began. Countless cultivators were defending their own spirit stones. Who would not work hard. As for Huang Bing, who had been shouting earlier, he was now in a remote corner. In the corner stood another man. Qianhu, I've endured the humiliation and finally. Huang Bing smiled. Captain Huang, we remember everything you've done. From the time you went to the city lord's mansion, to the time you were sent to prison, to the time you caused trouble at the great winged heaven school. Everything has been recorded. Once everything is settled and you are rewarded for your contributions, you will be on the same level as me. Perhaps you can even become my superior. When the time comes, I'll need you to take care of me. The man smiled. I wouldn't dare. Huang Bing said immediately. Haha, Huang Baihu, don't be modest. Let's continue. What's next is the most important. The people who escaped are the best opportunities. Let me tell you, they're the first batch of city lords to escape, said the man. Huang Bing's eyes lit up. The first batch was extremely important. Once it was dealt with properly, it would definitely be a great merit. Thank you for your reminder, Qianhu. I will go now, Huang Bing immediately replied. And take care. Qianhu nodded. Grabbing the Dharma treasure, Huang Bing immediately rushed out. Great Zhen Dynasty, Yinjing. In the palace. Rumbling sounds could be heard from all directions in the palace. The commoners in the distance all looked over. At this moment, the palace was surrounded by a thick fog. This is heavenly tribulation, I know. It's the heavenly tribulation. But why is the palace surrounded by fog? It's the emperor's tribulation, the commoners said in shock. At the same time, they all looked at him with excitement and admiration. Great Jin unified 60 cities and annihilated the 4 sections. The imperial power had unified the world and achieved great fame. In this area, it was like the sun in the midday sky. A large number of cultivators from the 60 immortal cities headed to the Yan capital. There were more and more Xiuzha in Yinjing. At this moment, countless cultivators could see the tribulation. In the palace, a large number of imperial bodyguards stood guard in all directions. The great formation was activated, and a thick fog filled the air. Mou, she carried Miao and stood in front of Skyward Hall, looking at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan stood in the square of Skyward Hall, looking up at the sky. In the sky, dark clouds gathered and rolled. The power of the 39 heavenly tribulations pressed down as if it was going to destroy everything below. Boom, boom, boom. 27 bolts of heavenly thunder were like 27 lightning dragons. They rushed down fiercely, and the surrounding void was electrolyzed into a blur. Chapter 682. Standing below, it was as if one could see 27 ferocious dragons baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they swooped down from the clouds. They brought with them a destructive aura, as if they were going to tear Yin Chuan apart. Roar! Yin Chuan glared at the sky and roared. The huge roar carried a destructive aura as it rushed towards the 27 lightning dragons. The roar carried an unparalleled might, as if this roar was going to command the world. The might in the roar was very strange. It was filled with an irresistible dominance. Bai Ditian, who was outside the palace, was looking at the palace curiously. However, Yin Chuan's roar caused Bai Ditian's expression to change. Bai Ditian realized that this roar was unusual. He stomped his foot. Swish! Bai Ditian instantly arrived at the entrance of the Skyward Palace. Imoyushi glanced at Bai Ditian and ignored him. She looked at Yin Chuan again and continued to transcend the tribulation. When Bai Ditian arrived at the entrance of the Skyward Palace, he immediately saw the wonders of this roar. Amidst the roar, the 27 lightning dragons were swallowed by Yin Chuan. The 27 lightning tails that filled the sky were swallowed by Yin Chuan. This scene shocked even Bai Ditian. The lightning entered his stomach? Is Yin Chuan trying to temper his organs? Bai Ditian was confused. Roar! Yin Chuan let out another loud roar. Suddenly, a huge lightning ball erupted around his body. Countless lightning bolts circled around him, forming a vast magnetic force that violently sucked in the tribulation clouds in the sky. Rumble! The 39 tribulation clouds were pulled down by Yin Chuan amidst the rumbling sounds. The tribulation clouds descended and slowly approached the Skyward Palace Plaza. Roar! After a loud roar, the 39 tribulation clouds finally arrived at Yin Chuan's mouth. As Yin Chuan stared, the 39 tribulation clouds seemed to be struggling violently. Rumble! The vast tribulation clouds were being devoured by Yin Chuan ferociously. More and more tribulation clouds entered Yin Chuan's body, and Yin Chuan's eyes flashed with lightning. Swallowing the tribulation clouds? Bai Ditian let out a sigh. No wonder the palace was covered in fog. Tribulation swallowing cloud? Huh. Imoyushi's eyes were filled with adoration and tenderness. Rumble! The tribulation cloud struggled, but it still couldn't escape Yin Chuan's heaven-swallowing spear. First heaven tribulation cloud, devour. Second heaven tribulation cloud, devour. Now it was the third tribulation cloud, and Yin Chuan was still swallowing it. Yin Chuan, Bai Long, Rosefinch, and Xuanwu went through the second tribulation together. Yin Chuan didn't even let go of their fourth tribulation, let alone the third tribulation. It didn't take much effort for Yin Chuan to swallow the rolling tribulation clouds into his stomach. Rumble! Lightning flashed around Yin Chuan. After swallowing the tribulation cloud, Yin Chuan stood there and digested it. Rumble! 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 2 hours later, Yin Chuan's body rumbled. Then, the lightning surrounding Yin Chuan slowly dissipated. Yin Chuan opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Imoyushi and Bai Ditian, who were at the entrance of the Skyward Palace, and smiled faintly. You swallowed the tribulation cloud. What's your cultivation level? Meow? Meow immediately shouted. First tier divine state. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Meow? This doesn't make sense. Others who were struck by lightning until they were half dead are first tier divine state. Why are you the same? You swallowed the tribulation clouds. Meow Meow exclaimed. Yin Chuan smiled and didn't explain. Chapter 683. Bai Ditian looked at Yin Chuan with a complicated expression. I heard that the Great Winged Heaven School's 100th city was destroyed by you. Great Jun and Great Feather are about to start a war. Bai Detian frowned. Yes, soon. Hua Guang is at the border, and he's almost done gathering. Yin Chuan smiled. Even if you have the Golden Dragon of Providence, you can't deal with the founder of the Great Winged Heaven School. That true Lord Great Feather isn't someone you can deal with. Do you need me to help? Bai Detian frowned. Yin Chuan smiled. No need. I'm already prepared. Oh. Bai Detian looked confused. Bai Detian also understood the ultimate strength of the Great Winged Heaven School. The previous sect master, true Lord White Feather, and the founder, true Lord Great Feather. Even if Yin Chuan had the power of the entire nation, he wouldn't be a match for them. Plus, Mo that wouldn't be enough. Yin Chuan looked at Mo Qing Long and White Tiger have already gone to welcome them. They should arrive tomorrow. Mo said. That's good. Yin Chuan nodded. In the outskirts of First Kai City, almost 2 million Xiozha surrounded the 200 people that were fleeing. Shiwia and Wang Qingshan fought back, but the citizens of First Kai City had already gone crazy. Although Shiwia was a lower void realm cultivator, there were nearly 100 deity realm cultivators surrounding him. Stealing our spirit stones is our life. Kill him. Kill him. The battle became more and more intense. Several hours later, even Shiwia was covered in injuries from the array set up by the deity realm cultivators. Boom! Shiwia lost an arm and a leg. On the other hand, Huang Bing gently plucked a ring from Shiwuya's severed arm. The storage ring is in my hand. I've already gotten it. Huang Bing yelled. You're asking for death. You bastards. Shiwuya was dying. We're courting death? You're the ones who are courting death by snatching our spirit stones. Huang Bing shouted coldly. Everyone, please gather the spirit stones. We'll divide them equally. Huang Bing called out again. Good. The 2 million practitioners immediately said excitedly. Several spirit stone mountains were quickly distributed. As for Shi Wuya, Wang Qingshan, and the others, they were on the verge of death. Kill them, kill them. Some people shouted. Don't. Huang Bing immediately stopped everyone. Although the cultivators hated Shi Wuya and Wang Qingshan, Huang Bing still had a certain amount of prestige. At the very least, if not for Huang Bing's shout, they would still be in the dark. Therefore, even though many people wanted to kill Shi Wuya and Wang Qingshan, they still asked Huang Bing for permission. Swish! At this moment, dozens of figures descended. It was Shin Kuan Kuroha, who had rushed over after hearing the news. Sect leader, save me. Wang Qingshan cried out in grief. Shin Kuan Kuroha looked at the surrounding mountains of spirit stones and the group of people lying on the ground. What's going on? You want to leave with the spirit stones? Shin Kuan Kuroha said coldly. Sect leader, I've already used the spirit stones to bribe the senior brothers and junior brothers. You want us to gather the spirit stones that we can't collect? How can we do that? We can't, Shiwuya said bitterly. Sect leader, many of the senior brother spirit stones have already been deposited in the East Money Bank. They can't take them out either, Wang Qingshan said bitterly. So you want to leave with these spirit stones? Shin Kuan Kuroha's expression was extremely ugly. Sect leader, we're already in such a miserable state. Please let us go, Shiwuya said bitterly. In the past, the Great Winged Heaven School was an emptiness realm expert. How did they end up like this? How did they lose an arm and a leg? Chapter 684. We can't let them go. They were the ones who stole our spirit stones. Huang Bing yelled. That's right. We haven't gotten our spirit stones back yet. They can't just let it go. Many people agreed with Huang Bing. Shin Kuan Kuroha frowned at Huang Bing. Shin Kuan Kuroha, all 100 of our cities belong to the Great Winged Heaven School. We beg the Great Winged Heaven School to give us justice so that we can continue to support the Great Winged Heaven School. We don't blame the Great Winged Heaven School for this incident because you, Shin Kuan Kuroha, didn't know about it all. However, we can't let these people who stole our spirit stones and harmed us off the hook. Huang Bing said. Shin Kuan Kuroha, please be fair. Millions of people shouted together. What was the trend of the times? The pleading of millions of people was the trend of the times. Shinkuin Kuroha suddenly hesitated. Should he go against the will of the people? When Huang Bing saw Shinkuin Kuroha's hesitation, he immediately said, Shinkuin Kuroha, these people ran away with the spirit stones. Does that mean that they took your words for granted? They've already chosen to betray the great winged heaven school? Huang Bing's words seemed to have hit Shinkuin Kuroha's sore spot. These people had always been disobedient, and he had long wanted to punish them. Also, they had betrayed the sect. Yes, they had already betrayed the sect. Shinkuin Kuroha immediately steeled his resolve. I've heard of the Great Winged Heaven School's rules. Betrayers should be executed. Not only did these people betray the sect, but they also harmed the people of First Kai City. Shinkuin Kuroha, please let us deal with them. Huang Bing shouted. Shinkuin Kuroha, please grant us our wish. The people shouted. Shinkuin Kuroha coldly looked at Shiwuya and the others. All right. Shinkuin Kuroha nodded. Then, Shinkuin Kuroha led a group of people and slowly flew away. No! Sect leader, save me! Wang Qingshan cried out in grief. Sect leader, don't leave me behind. I know I was wrong. Everyone was shouting wildly, but Shinkuin Kuroha did not care at all. He had only himself to blame. So why should he save him? Moreover, it could quench the anger of the people and allow him to further control the Great Winged Heaven School. Why would he care? Shinkuin Kuroha quickly flew away. However, with this departure, Shinkuin Kuroha had placed the entire Great Winged Heaven School in an irrecoverable situation. Huang Bing's eyes flashed as he watched Shinkuin Kuroha leave. He turned his head and looked at Shiwuya and the others. Then, he looked at the people. Everyone, I stopped you just now to prevent you from offending the Great Winged Heaven School. I'm very sorry. Now the Great Winged Heaven School has agreed to execute this group of people. Everything is up to you. Huang Bing shouted to the people. Thank you, Shopkeeper Huang. Shopkeeper Huang is very thoughtful. The people sighed and looked at Shiwuya with hatred in their eyes. These people deserve to die. No, we have to force them to tell us where the rest of the money is. Also, these people have to be cut into pieces. Hatred made the people think of countless ways to torture Wang Qingshan and the others. At the same time, the news of today's events quickly spread in all directions. Shinkuin Kuroha, kill one as an example to the rest. Shinkuin Kuroha, purge the Great Winged Heaven School. Shinkuin Kuroha, selfless, investigate the matter of corruption with all your might. Anyone who participated in the distribution of the Spirit Stones in the world's #1 store must be executed. This is only the first wave. Next, everyone who participated in the corruption in the 100 cities will be executed. The news spread quickly. It spread to the 100 cities and reached the ears of the cultivators who had not escaped. No, Shiwuya is already dead. Is it my turn next? Some Great Winged Heaven School disciples said in fear. Oh my God, Shiwuya took out so many spirit stones and was executed. My spirit stones were all stored in the East Money Bank and were cheated. If I can't take out the spirit stones, won't I die even more? No, I can't give my spirit stones to those unruly people. Stay in the Great Winged Heaven School and wait for death. I have spirit stones. Can't I cultivate anywhere? I have so many spirit stones. Can't I go far away? I have spirit stones. Leave the Great Winged Heaven School, and I can cultivate quickly. I have spirit stones. What's there to be afraid of? The world is big. Stay here and wait for death. Bah! Shiwuya and Wang Qingshan were executed for fleeing. Not only did that not stop the disciples of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect from having such thoughts, it became a wave that grew more and more intense. More and more cultivators fled with the sect's wealth. Leave the Great Winged Heaven School. The second round of the Great Winged Heaven School's collapse began. The people's hearts were scattered. Chapter 685. The Great Winged Heaven School. The Great Winged Heaven School was near the sea, so there were many Great Winged Heaven School disciples living on the islands near the sea. On one of the islands, inside a palace covered with dense formations, there were more than 10 people standing in the main hall. The leader was an old man with white eyebrows. Master, the sect master has ordered us to return all the spirit stones to those unruly people, a cultivator said respectfully. The old man with white eyebrows narrowed his eyes. What's Shinku and Kuroha? When Master reached the emptiness realm, he was still in the immortal realm. He's just a dog of Emperor Ko. How dare he order Master around? Another person said. The old man with white eyebrows raised his eyebrows. Clearly, this was a thorn in his heart. Master, our spirit stones are all with you. Should we return them? Another person said. Everyone looked at the old man with white eyebrows. The old man with white eyebrows slowly walked out of the main hall and looked at the area covered by the array. With a wave of his sleeve, mountains of spirit stones appeared in front of everyone. Instantly, everyone's breathing quickened, including the old man with white eyebrows. People often said that cultivators cultivated the true self and were not disturbed by external things. That was because external objects had not reached the level of tempting cultivators. If cultivators really had no desires, they would not pursue to become immortals and attain the Tao. In comparison, this group of people's desires were even stronger. Spirit stones? In the past, a small treasury of spirit stones might not be a big deal, but what about these mountains of spirit stones? Are we really going to return them to those unruly people? Those unruly people only have themselves to blame. These spirit stones are what we deserve. Don't we want these spirit stones? Everyone murmured. Whoosh. At this moment, a figure flew over. Master, Master. That person called out. HM. The old man with white eyebrows looked at him. Shinku and Kuroha destroyed Shiwuya's line. That person said worriedly. What? The old man with white eyebrows raised his eyebrows. That person quickly told him what he knew. How cruel! The white-browed old man said with a cold look in his eyes. Master, even if we hand over all our spirit stones, it still won't be enough. Master, what should we do? Shiwuya and the others didn't escape. Everyone looked at the white-browed old man worriedly. The white-browed elder narrowed his eyes and said, Shiwuya is right. With these spirit stones, we can start a new sect. With my cultivation, it's not impossible for me to compete for the Tiansu. I can even join an inferior sect first, and then steal the position of sect leader. With these spirit mountains, your cultivation will only advance by leaps and bounds in the future. The old man with white eyebrows said. Everyone's eyes gradually lit up. Master, but Shiwuya didn't escape. A disciple said worriedly. He didn't escape because he was stupid. Why did they have to travel by land? We can travel from the bottom of the sea. Who will know that we have left? The white-browed elder said in a deep voice. Yes, Master's wise, Master is wise. Everyone said excitedly. On another island, another red-browed, emptiness realm expert looked at the spirit stone mountain in front of him. Master, our line didn't control any of the major cities. It has nothing to do with us, a disciple said with a smile. The red-browed emptiness realm expert shook his head and said, No, although we didn't take over 100 cities, we received more spirit stones. In order to take over the position of city leader, they spent a large amount of spirit stones to bribe me. They gave me quite a lot, but not as much as they had. However, I'm not stupid. I helped them not just one city, but 10 city leaders. I received more spirit stones than them. The red-browed emptiness realm expert said in a deep voice. Chapter 686. Then master these spirit stones. Once their spirit stones are emptied by the sect master, we will be next. Do you think you can take back the spirit stones that are already in my hands? The red-browed virtual realm expert said coldly. Master, let's go. Inform all of you to come here. Tonight, we will leave from the bottom of the sea. With these spirit stones, we can go anywhere. The red-browed virtual realm expert said in a deep voice. Yes. Wait. The red-browed virtual realm expert suddenly narrowed his eyes. What's wrong, Master? Master and a few senior brothers are in charge of the Great Winged Heaven School's spirit stone storage. Those are the collective spirit stones of the Great Winged Heaven School. However, now that we are leaving, why should we leave with them? Take those spirit stones and leave together. The red-browed virtual realm expert shouted. Yes, in a dense forest in the Great Winged Heaven School. Master, our spirit stones have all been deposited in the Jidong Money Bank. What are we going to do now that the bank is gone? Master, Shiwia handed over so many spirit stones, but he was executed by Shinkuin Kuroha. What will happen to us if we can't hand over the spirit stones? Master, Shinkuin Kuroha is urging us again today. Everyone looked at a bald old man. The bald old man's expression was ugly. Let's go. Let's hide outside. Okay. A month later, the city opened for business. The citizens of the city were waiting for news from the Great Winged Heaven School. However, a month had passed, and the spirit stones from the Great Winged Heaven School had yet to be distributed. On average, each citizen had only received 3 superior-grade spirit stones. These spirit stones were obtained by fighting for them. They were obtained by the citizens themselves. None of the spirit stones from the Great Winged Heaven School came into their accounts. The citizens were getting more and more anxious. Their respect for the Great Winged Heaven School gradually dissipated, and even resentment appeared. Oh no! Suddenly, a voice sounded in the city. What's wrong? Shopkeeper Huang. Everyone looked at Huang Bing. They fled. All the city lords and emptiness realm experts fled with our spirit stones, Jiahu said. We worked hard to get some spirit stones back, but many cities didn't have any spirit stones at all. They all gathered at the Great Winged Heaven School. What? They went to the Great Winged Heaven School to ask for the spirit stones. Many of them ran away with the spirit stones. Now the Great Winged Heaven School is giving us less and less spirit stones. If we don't go now, the spirit stones will be taken by people from other cities. Quick, let's go and ask for the spirit stones. Huang Bing shouted. All right. The news of the various city lords escaping could not be concealed at all. When they were gone, the Great Winged Heaven School's internal department spread the news. How could the people not be anxious? Under the instigation of Huang Bing and the others, the commoners quickly gathered towards the Great Winged Heaven School. Of the 200 million cultivators, more than 100 million rushed towards the Great Winged Heaven School. Inside the Great Winged Heaven School, Shinkuan Koha stood on a floating island and looked down at the black mass of figures in the distance. More than 100 million, almost 200 million. This number was too terrifying. Where are they? Where are they? I gave them time to gather the spirit stones, but where are they now? Shinkuan Kuroha shouted angrily. I don't know. They are all gone. A cultivator loyal to Shinkuan Kuroha said bitterly. Secmaster, what do we do now? Someone asked worriedly. First, take out the spirit stone storage of the Great Winged Heaven School and appease this group of unruly people. Shinkuan Kuroha said with an ugly expression. Although he looked down on this group of unruly people, there were too many of them. Almost 200 million? Thinking about it, Shinkuan Kuroha's face darkened. Secmaster, not good, not good. A disciple flew over. What's wrong? Shinkuan Kuroha said with an ugly expression. The uncle masters guarding the storage are gone. The disciple said with an ugly expression. What? Shinkuan Kuroha's expression changed. 60% of our sect's treasures have been stolen by them. The disciple said in horror. Bastard, bastard. Shinkuan Kuroha shouted angrily at the border of the Great Zhun dynasty. On a huge platform, Huaguang held up an imperial edict. The emperor has decreed that the troops will attack the Great Winged Heaven School. Huaguang shouted. Roar! Roar! Roars shook the sky. The attack had begun. Great Zhun dynasty, Yinjing. Skyward Palace. The doors of the palace were tightly shut. Yifeng had mobilized a large number of troops to guard the palace. No one was allowed to come close. Qing Long, and by Long regarding the door, not budging an inch. In the Skyward Palace, a large number of luminous pearls lit up the palace. In the palace, other than Yin Chuan's dragon throne, there were 6 other thrones. A total of 7 thrones were arranged in a circle. Yin Chuan, Mo Yushi, and 5 well-dressed, dignified men. "Everyone please sit," Yin Chuan said with a smile. The 5 of them looked at Yin Chuan curiously. Their eyes were shining. Mo Yu, she was the first to sit down. Everyone looked at each other and sat down slowly. Only Yin Chuan stood among the group. "This time, I invited Saintus Mo Yushi and all of you here. Thank you for giving me face," Yin Chuan said with a smile. "I'm just giving face to Saintus Yushi. You, Yin Chuan, displayed your brilliance at the Heaven's Bestowment Conference. I've always wanted to see what kind of person this sorrowful, tearful goddess is. She's the one who suppressed the scholars and forced Dowlord Blacksun back." A red-robed man laughed. "What's the matter? Just say it." Another man with a cold face said lightly. Yin Chuan nodded. "I'd like to invite all of you to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School with me," Yin Chuan said solemnly. "Huh? Destroy the Great Winged Heaven School with you? Why should we? We don't have any relationship with you. Why should we help you? Help the Great Zhen Dynasty? Why should we help you become stronger?" The 5 of them shook their heads and looked at Yin Chuan. "Perfected cultivators, please listen to me," Yin Chuan said with a smile. Everyone I've invited is a perfected cultivator from a middle-level sect. There's even a sect leader among them. All of you are middle void stage experts. Yin Chuan is very grateful that you can come. Please listen to what I'm about to say. If you don't think it's enough for you to stay and help me, I, Yin Chuan, won't force you. Everything will go according to your wishes. How about that?" Yin Chuan said with a smile. Everyone looked at Yin Chuan indifferently. Chapter 687. Great Zhen Dynasty, Skyward Hall. 5 Middle Void Realm experts looked at Yin Chuan with interest. "I know that your sects have no feud with the Great Winged Heaven School. Similarly, you don't wish for another powerful sect to rise in the East Divine Continent. This is human nature. Why would you go against the Great Winged Heaven School for the sake of the Great Zhen Dynasty?" Yin Chuan said with a smile. The 5 nodded. "Indeed, why would they help the Great Zhen Dynasty? Your sect's territories are not adjacent to the Great Zhen Dynasty. Moreover, there is a Middle Void Realm sect in between. I believe that you don't like the neighboring sects," Yin Chuan said with a smile. The red-robed expert smiled faintly. "I have investigated the surrounding sections. I know that the Middle Void Realm sects adjacent to the Great Zhen Dynasty have conflicts with your sections. Due to the differences in territories, the sects sometimes draw their swords at each other. I just want to emphasize a fact. If the Great Zhen Dynasty becomes powerful, it will only be beneficial to the 5 sections. This is because the Great Zhen Dynasty will only share the hatred from the other sects," Yin Chuan said with a smile. Everyone narrowed their eyes. Although they were tempted, they couldn't be persuaded by Yin Chuan with just a few words. "Everyone, am I wrong?" Yin Chuan looked at everyone with a smile. "It seems reasonable. If the Great Zhen Dynasty becomes powerful, it won't be a big problem for us. However, why should we help you?" The red-robed expert said lightly. Everyone nodded. Yin Chuan smiled and looked at the red-robed expert. "Perhaps I was too hasty. Let's put it another way. I would like to invite all of you to cooperate with me." "Cooperate?" The red-robed expert narrowed his eyes. "I believe that all of you know that the Great Winged Heaven School has 5 pseudo-immortal artifacts. This is also the reason why I invited the 5 of you," Yin Chuan said with a smile. The 5 pseudo-immortal artifacts? Is it for us?" The red-robed expert asked with interest. It was impossible to say that one would not be tempted by a quasi-immortal weapon. After all, a middle-level sect would only have a few at most. However, how much would he have to pay for that? "That's right, 5 quasi-fairy artifacts. I, Yin Chuan, don't need any of them. You could divide them among yourselves. What you need to do is to stall perfected Lord Dayu for me and bring him to Yin Jin half a month later for me to fight with him. That's enough," Yin Chuan said with a smile. "Ha ha ha. You?" The red-robed expert laughed. Everyone looked at Yin Chuan in disbelief. Yin Chuan's cultivation was at the first stage of the God realm. Everyone saw it clearly. If it weren't for Mo Yushi, the five of them could easily kill Yin Chuan, but Yin Chuan said that he wanted to fight perfected Lord Dayu alone. Of course, you can also use your names to invite perfected Lord Dayu for tea and chess. After half a month, when the situation is settled, you don't have to do anything. I'll fight perfected Lord Dayu, Yin Chuan said again. Everyone was slightly moved. It wasn't difficult to stall perfected Lord Dayu. They didn't want to risk their lives. The five of them could only stall perfected Lord Dayu for half a month. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Half a month? Can the Dezhan dynasty destroy the Great Winged Heaven School? The red-robed expert said with a hint of disbelief. That's right, Yin Chuan said with certainty. I don't believe it. The red-robed expert shook his head. Oh, what if you can't destroy the Great Winged Heaven School and perfected Lord Dayu? Let the five sects become enemies with the Great Winged Heaven School? The red-robed expert said. Chapter 688. Yin Chuan smiled and said, since the Great Jin Dynasty and the Great Winged Heaven School are officially at war, if Lord Dayu doesn't die, the Great Jin Dynasty will be destroyed. Why would I gamble with the future of the Great Jin Dynasty? So please rest assured that I will kill Lord Dayu. I know what you're thinking. Becoming enemies with the Great Winged Heaven School? Haha, I think it won't be much. If the Great Jin Dynasty fails, I will compensate you with this sword. How about it? Buzz. The Jade Emperor sword suddenly flew out and danced around the main hall. Sword spirit? Quasi-mortal weapon. Good treasure. The five people's expressions changed. If I lose, I will compensate you with this sword. Although there is only one sword, it is enough to make up for the enmity between you and Lord Dayu. If I win, the Great Winged Heaven School will give you all 5 quasi-mortal weapons. How about it? Yin Chuan said affirmatively. In the main hall, everyone was silent. The Great Winged Heaven School, it had been more than 2 months. The practitioners outside the Great Winged Heaven School had been waiting here for more than 2 months. Hundreds of cities were empty. Countless people came, waiting for the Great Winged Heaven School to fulfill its promise. However, at this moment, the Great Winged Heaven School was in chaos. Sect Master, a man ran into Shinkuin Kuroha's main hall. How is it? Shinkuin Kuroha asked anxiously. They ran away. Many senior brothers ran away. The Great Winged Heaven School originally had 300 virtual realm experts. Now, 200 of them have left. They also took their disciples with them. There are only 100 virtual realm experts left. The man said worriedly. The Great Winged Heaven School is only left with 1/3 of the original? Shinkuin Kuroha's expression changed. Yes, only 1/3 of the original, but those 2/3 of the disciples took away 90% of the spirit stones of the Great Winged Heaven School. The man said with an ugly expression. Bastard. Pa. Shinkuin Kuroha smashed the table with his palm. There's still 100 Emptiness Realm experts left, but most of them are in seclusion. That person said. Shinkuin Kuroha narrowed his eyes. Also, some of those unruly people had a conflict with our Great Winged Heaven School's disciples. These days, there's been a round every day, but they've all been raped. That person said. Are the unruly people rebelling? Shinkuin Kuroha asked with an ugly expression. Without spirit stones to pacify them, their emotions are getting more and more intense. I'm worried that this group of unruly people will really break into the Great Winged Heaven School. That person said worriedly. Tell them to come out of seclusion. Tell everyone to come out of seclusion. Shinkuin Kuroha's expression was extremely ugly. Yes, outside the Great Winged Heaven School. Give me back my spirit stones. Give me back my spirit stones. Countless practitioners shouted at the Great Winged Heaven School. On the ground, there were 100 corpses. These 100 corpses were too few compared to the nearly 200 million practitioners. However, these 100 corpses seemed to give everyone a psychological hint. The corpses were not collected. They just lay there, breaking the hearts of countless practitioners. Grandpa, We don't want our spirit stones anymore. We don't want them anymore. Great Winged Heaven School, you killed my big brother. I'm going to fight it out with you. Give us back our spirit stones. Give them back to us. Give them back to me. I want to buy a reconstruction pill. I want to save my brother. This group of cries tore apart the last bit of respect people had for the Great Winged Heaven School. At this moment, the crowd continued to riot. There were people who wanted to rush over, but they were stopped by some people. Shopkeeper Huang, don't stop me. They killed my brother. I want revenge. A practitioner shouted. Chapter 689. Huang Bing stopped him and shook his head. Zhang Xiao, you'll just be throwing your life away if you go. Believe in Shin Kuan Kuroha. He'll definitely give you justice. Huang Bing and the others blocked Zhang Xiao. On the other side, the Great Winged Heaven School disciples held their swords and blocked Zhang Xiao's path. They had been very courageous before, but when they saw the bloodshot and hateful gazes, the Great Winged Heaven School disciples trembled. If it weren't for people like Huang Bing stopping them, they would have already gone on a rampage. But why hasn't Shin Kuan Kuroha shown up yet? Zhang Xiao lamented. Everyone nodded at Zhang Xiao's words. Indeed, it had been more than 2 months. Why hasn't Shin Kuan Kuroha come out yet? Shin Kuan Kuroha. We want to see Shin Kuan Kuroha. Shin Kuan Kuroha. Shin Kuan Kuroha. For a moment, a wave of voices soared into the sky. How spectacular was it to hear more than 100 million people roaring? The vast sound waves caused the ears of countless cultivators to ring. The voices even reached the interior of the Great Winged Heaven School. Inside, Shin Kuan Kuroha was instructing everyone on what to do. Suddenly, a terrifying wave of voices swept over. Shin Kuan Kuroha. This was the voice of Shin Kuan Kuroha. It was so loud that it pierced the 9 heavens. Shin Kuan Kuroha's face turned ugly, but he still stepped out of the main hall. He stepped onto a floating island and flew out of the Great Winged Heaven School. Shin Kuan Kuroha knew that if he didn't show up for a long time, a huge riot would definitely happen. Finally, Shin Kuan Kuroha showed up. The 100 million cultivators all quieted down. Shin Kuan Kuroha could clearly feel that this time, everyone was no longer looking at him with respect. Instead, they were looking at him with hatred. Shin Kuan Kuroha looked at the 100 corpses in front of them. What's going on? Shin Kuan Kuroha shouted at the nearby disciples. Sect leader, they won't let us deal with them. They want you to uphold justice. A disciple said with an ugly expression. Shin Kuan Kuroha's eyelids twitched violently. Shin Kuan Kuroha, my grandfather was killed by someone from your sect. You have to give me an explanation. Shin Kuan Kuroha, my elder brother was killed by them. Call them out, I want revenge. Shin Kuan Kuroha, hand over the murderer. Hateful voices could be heard all around. Shin Kuan Kuroha had already missed the last opportunity. This time, if he handed over the Great Winged Heaven School's disciples, the Great Winged Heaven School would be completely destroyed. Shin Kuan Kuroha was at a loss for words when a voice rang out. We'll talk about the murderer later, Huang Bing shouted. Shin Kuan Kuroha's heart relaxed when he heard Huang Bing shout. A good person. Shin Kuan Kuroha, where are the spirit stones you promised me? It's been more than 3 months, and we've been here for more than 2 months. Why haven't we seen any spirit stones? Huang Bing shouted. Shin Kuan Kuroha's expression turned ugly again. Everyone, they're traitors in the Great Winged Heaven School. They stole the spirit stones from the Great Winged Heaven School and are now on the run. I don't have any spirit stones to give you, but don't worry, I'll get them back and give you an explanation. Shin Kuan Kuroha shouted. Excuses. Excuses. Is the Great Winged Heaven School not going to return the spirit stones to us? Huang Bing shouted angrily. Return my spirit stones. Return my spirit stones. The people were seething with resentment. At this moment, all the citizens looked as if they were about to explode. Their eyes were bloodshot, as if they were waiting for a powerful person to give the order to charge into the Great Winged Heaven School. Shinku and Kuroha wanted nothing more than to slap Huang Bing to death, but Shinku and Kuroha didn't. If Shinku and Kuroha made a move, it would prove that he was going to renege on the debt, and the citizens' resentment would be unquenchable. The nearly 200 million citizens would definitely explode. Shinku and Kuroha was furious. But at this moment, Shinku and Kuroha suddenly saw a scene that made Shinku and Kuroha's heart turn cold. A huge flag appeared in the distance behind the nearly 200 million cultivators. Shinku and Kuroha saw a large Jun character. In addition to this large flag, there was also an army of 3 million slowly marching over. 3 million soldiers were too few for the 100 million citizens. However, this orderly troop, fully clad in armor, exuded a ferocious aura. At the front was a dragon platform. On the dragon platform, Yin Chuan sat on the dragon throne, his eyes cold. Chapter 690. Yin Chuan. Shinku and Kuroha suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Yin Chuan didn't come earlier or later. Why did he come at this time? The Great Winged Heaven School was at its most critical moment. Why did he come at this time? Great Jin Dynasty? 3 million soldiers? In the past, Shinku and Kuroha wouldn't have cared about them. But now, Shinku and Kuroha couldn't help but change his expression. However, even though Shinku and Kuroha's expression was ugly, he didn't lose his composure. After all, the foundation of the Great Winged Heaven School wasn't something that the newly established Great Jin Dynasty could compare to. Shinku and Kuroha shouted, and the people who were on the verge of a riot all turned their heads to look. Great Jin Dynasty? Many people revealed curious expressions. It wasn't that the cultivators didn't know about the Great Jin Dynasty. On the contrary, it was the Great Jin Dynasty that forced the Great Winged Heaven School to redivide its territory 15 years ago. The Great Winged Heaven School's territory was instantly reduced by half. Don't underestimate this small half. It left a deep impression on the people who didn't know. To be able to force the Great Winged Heaven School to shrink its territory, the Great Jin Dynasty must be incomparably powerful. There is also news that the 100 affiliated sects of the Great Winged Heaven School were all destroyed by the Great Jin Dynasty. This wasn't a secret at all. The Great Winged Heaven School couldn't even protect its own affiliated sects. The image of the Great Jin Dynasty was extremely important in the hearts of the people. Great Zhao Holy Ground, Holy Maiden Yushi? Immediately, someone recognized Mo Yushi, who was beside Yin Chuan. The surrounding people suddenly fell silent. If the people were unfamiliar with the Great Jin Dynasty, then the Great Zhao Holy Ground was no stranger. The Great Zhao Holy Ground was the #1 sect under the heavens. The Holy Maiden of the Great Zhao Holy Ground. Just the title alone was enough to make everyone reveal a dignified expression. Emperor of the Jin, what are you trying to do? Suddenly, a voice exploded. Shinku and Kuroha was stunned, because this angry rebuke did not come from the Great Winged Heaven School, but from the commoner in front of him, Huang Bing. When Huang Bing shouted, everyone was puzzled. Over 100 million people didn't have a leader. They were just filled with resentment. In every city, there was a group of people with high prestige. Since the opening of the city, Huang Bing had unknowingly gained a certain level of prestige. At this moment, Huang Bing shouted at Yin Chuan. Many people understood, but many people did not. The Great Winged Heaven School has gone against the tide. 15 years ago, we have already issued a proclamation to the world to avenge Heavenly Father. Yin Chuan shouted. Shinku and Kuroha's eyes turned cold. Was the Jin really here to fight the Great Winged Heaven School? Shinku and Kuroha was about to explode in anger when a Huang soldier suddenly stepped in front of him. No way, Huang Bing shouted. Huang Bing's shout immediately stunned many people, including Shinku and Kuroha. Their eyes were filled with confusion. The Great Winged Heaven School owes us spirit stones. If you destroy it, who are we going to ask for our spirit stones? Huang Bing shouted. Shinku and Kuroha's face twitched. He didn't know if he was moved or angry. So, They were supporting the Great Winged Heaven School for the sake of their spirit stones. Countless commoners nodded. Yes, if you destroy the Great Winged Heaven School, who are we going to ask for our spirit stones? Most of the people had their concepts changed by Huang Bing's words. Originally, the commoners only thought that Dejun was strong, but they might not be a match for the Great Winged Heaven School. However, after Huang Bing's shout, the commoners suddenly felt that Dejun was a force that could destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. Chapter 691. Billions of Spirit Stones. How could he let the great Jin dynasty do as they pleased? Yin Chuan looked at Huang Bing with slight admiration, but he still pretended that he didn't know him. Spirit stones? The Great Winged Heaven School owes you spirit stones. Why didn't you get them? Yin Chuan asked curiously. Huang Bing was at a loss for words when he heard Yin Chuan's words. The people around them looked at Shin Kuan Kuroha again. It was obvious that their anger from being interrupted by Yin Chuan had reignited. Shin Kuan Kuroha, return my spirit stones. Someone in the crowd shouted. Shin Kuan Kuroha's face turned ugly. He looked at Yin Chuan's army in the distance and said coldly, Everyone, listen up. Wipe out the 3 million bandits on the other side. Once you're done, take the spirit stones. True Monarch Black Feather shouted. The people were stunned. Ha ha ha. Shin Kuan Kuroha, who are you trying to fool? Take out the spirit stones, and we'll believe you. Huang Bing shouted. Shin Kuan Kuroha's face froze as he looked coldly at Huang Bing. Shin Kuan Kuroha, today, you must return the spirit stones that belong to us. Huang Bing shouted. Hand them over. Everyone shouted. The voices of the people were the most terrifying. There were more than 100 million people, and their aura caused the air around Shin Kuan Kuroha to become turbulent. Shin Kuan Kuroha's face turned gloomy. Hua Guang, commander of the Great Jin Dynasty's First Legion, challenges Shin Kuan Kuroha. Hua Guang suddenly stepped forward. Shin Kuan Kuroha looked at Hua Guang, who was holding a spear. Shin Kuan Kuroha's face darkened when he saw Hua Guang. How dare a subject challenge me? Yin Chuan, you gone too far. Shin Kuan Kuroha shouted. My emperor said, Shin Kuan Kuroha, if you can defeat me, Dejun will immediately retreat. Hua Guang shouted. Shin Kuan Kuroha looked puzzled. After defeating Hua Guang, Dejun retreated? The interior of the Great Winged Heaven School was a mess. Shin Kuan Kuroha really didn't want to fight at this moment. Once they fought with the Great Qin dynasty, the internal situation would definitely be exposed. Once exposed, this group of unruly people would destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. Hua Guang's challenge? Shin Kuan Kuroha might not be afraid, but these unruly people? Shin Kuan Kuroha, you want us to help you fight against Dejun's army? That's impossible. If you want to fight, you have to fight on your own or return the spirit stones. Huang Bing shouted, pointing spear at the world. Boom! Hua Guang did not wait for Shin Kuan Kuroha's reply. A vast energy spear shot toward him. Boom! The energy spear shot toward Shin Kuan Kuroha. You're courting death. Shin Kuan Kuroha slashed with his sword. Boom! The sword and spear collided. The battle between the two of them began without rhyme or reason. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School looked at the sky in confusion. At the same time, they looked at the 100 million people warily. Boom! 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 The battle in the sky began. On the dragon platform, Yin Chuan rose to his feet. Everyone! Yin Chuan suddenly shouted. The people turned to look at Yin Chuan. Since the Great Jin Dynasty dares to come here today, we're confident we can destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. I'm sure no one thinks that I, Yin Chuan, will come here to seek my own death, right? Yin Chuan said angrily. Many people nodded. The Great Winged Heaven School owes you spirit stones. Why don't you collect them yourself? I've captured a group of cultivators who escaped from the Great Winged Heaven School. I'm sure everyone knows that they escaped with a large number of spirit stones. Yin Chuan shouted. Every day, a large number of disciples from the Great Winged Heaven School escape with spirit stones. The longer the Great Winged Heaven School drags on, the fewer spirit stones there are. There won't be enough for everyone, Yin Chuan said. Chapter 692. As soon as Yin Chuan said that, the faces of countless people changed. The Great Winged Heaven School is about to be destroyed. I promise in the name of the Great Zhen Dynasty that you will follow us to the Great Winged Heaven School. Whatever you get will belong to you. Also, if you kill an Essence State warrior, you will be rewarded with 25 superior grade spirit stones. If you kill an Chi State warrior, you will be rewarded with 300 superior grade spirit stones. If you kill an Immortal State warrior, you will be rewarded with 5,000 superior grade spirit stones. If you kill an Emptiness State warrior, you will be rewarded with 100,000 superior grade spirit stones. Yin Chuan shouted, 100,000? Superior grade spirit stones? For a moment, countless people's eyes were burning with desire. Yin Chuan, you are courting death. Shinkuin Kuroha roared in the sky. Shinkuin Kuroha couldn't do anything to Huoguang, and Huoguang couldn't kill him either. Emperor of the Great Zhen Dynasty, are you lying? Huang Bing shouted. I can vouch for the Great Zhen Dynasty. Mo Yushi suddenly shouted. With Mo Yushi's shout, Yin Chuan's words were officially confirmed. Suddenly, countless pairs of eyes turned red and looked at the disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School. A large number of disciples at the entrance of the school suddenly trembled. What are you doing? A disciple shouted. This. Huang Bing suddenly drew his long sword and charged at the disciple. Zhang Xiao, avenge your brother. Everyone, take back what belongs to us. Huang Bing shouted. Along with the Huang soldiers, a large number of commoners also made their move. As soon as the person at the front made a move, the people around him also attacked. Once they attacked, it was as if they had pledged their allegiance. There was no turning back. The people who attacked earlier suddenly turned their heads and shouted, Big brother, attack. Junior brother, attack. Second uncle, hurry up and attack. Rumble. The people began to kill crazily as they advanced toward the Great Winged Heaven School. Spirit stones, everything is for the sake of spirit stones. Shinkuin Kuroha roared angrily in the sky. Bastard! Hurry up and get everyone out of seclusion. At this moment, the countless cultivators in the sect were stupefied. Nearly 200 million cultivators were charging over. The commoners were like bandits as they charged in and scattered in all directions. Everywhere they went, they left a mess. All sorts of magical treasures and decorations were plundered by the bandits. Some people even pulled out many of the decorative immortal herbs of the Great Winged Heaven School. Boom, boom, boom. The remaining disciples of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect quickly bombarded one cave after another, bombarding the various secluded caves. Boom! A cave abode was disturbed and opened with a loud bang. Bastard, which blind thing dares to disturb this old man's seclusion? A white-robed old man rushed out angrily. However, as soon as the white-robed old man finished speaking, the white-robed old man suddenly revealed a look of surprise. In the distance, a black mass of cultivators poured into the Great Winged Heaven School like locusts. Everywhere they passed, not a single blade of grass was left alive. What's going on? Who can tell me what's going on? The white-robed old man exclaimed. That spiritual master Shameng. 5 years ago, he just reached the lower emptiness realm. Huang Bing suddenly shouted, Lower emptiness realm? 100,000 high-grade spirit stones? Suddenly, a voice echoed in the air. Boom! Boom! A large number of cultivators immediately surrounded them. Bastard, what 100,000 high-grade spirit stones? Do you want to die? How dare you break in my Great Winged Heaven School? The white-robed old man roared angrily. Kill! Kill! Hundreds of cultivators did not care at all and directly charged forward. Kill! In all directions, the experts of the Great Winged Heaven School came out of seclusion one after another. However, in the eyes of the common people, mountains of spirit stones appeared one after another. Rob! The common people who had accumulated resentment for a long time seemed to have gone crazy at this moment. They swarmed into the great winged heaven school like a swarm of bees. At the peak of a mountain in the distance, at this moment, 5 middle emptiness realm experts who were invited by Yin Chuan looked at each other, their eyes filled with confusion. What? The common people of the great winged heaven school have all gone crazy? How can this be? Do these common people really want to die? Everyone is like a bandit? The 5 people were stunned. Chapter 693. The Great Winged Heaven School. More and more people could not remain calm when they saw that some people had already privately owned a large number of Dharma treasures. More and more experts rushed to the Great Winged Heaven School. Once they entered the Great Winged Heaven School, it meant that they were completely on the side of the Great Jin Dynasty. A group of immortal state commoners targeted the lower void stage cultivators because the cave abodes of every lower void stage cultivator had the most Dharma treasures, spirit pills, and secret manuals. At the same time, the head of a lower void stage cultivator was worth 100,000 superior grade spirit stones, which was 1,000,000,000 inferior grade spirit stones. A lower void stage cultivator was strong, but what about 100 immortal state cultivators? There were too many commoners. If the Great Winged Heaven School was at its peak, it would definitely be able to defeat them. However, most of the experts were in seclusion now, and only 1/3 of them were in seclusion. How could they deal with these ferocious commoners? Are they crazy? How is that possible? Is this the end of the world? How dare these commoners? How dare they? Bastard, how dare they? The cultivators of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect were shouting anxiously all around. A large number of commoners gathered outside a cave. Come, there's a cave abode that hasn't come out yet. Let's set up an array and kill him. Someone shouted. Okay. Those Xiozha who had not come out of seclusion were killed by a group of common people in their muddle-headedness. On the dragon platform, Yin Chuan looked at the Great Winged Heaven School in the distance and the rolling merit clouds in the sky. Endless merit was surging at that moment. Nearly 200 million commoners rushed to the Great Winged Heaven School, and the endless merit was surging desperately. The virtuous clouds were slowly dispersing and dispersing, gradually decreasing in number. At the same time, in Yanjin, the Great Jin Dynasty. Roar! The golden dragon of Providence roared at the sky. As it roared, the sea of Providence suddenly churned. Below Yanjin, Bai Ditian looked at the Providence clouds in the sky. Who? Out of nowhere, beams of golden light gathered towards the Sea of Providence from all directions. The Sea of Providence grew bigger and bigger, and more Providence appeared. Supreme Being, Dejun's Providence is skyrocketing. A tiger demon exclaimed. Bai Ditian stared at the golden dragon of Providence. As the Providence continued to gather, the golden dragon of Providence became more and more corporeal and thick. The golden dragon of Dejun's Providence is becoming stronger. Bai Ditian's eyes lit up, outside the Great Winged Heaven School. Bastard! Shinkuan Kuroha roared at the sky. On the other side, Huaguang seemed to become more and more courageous as the battle progressed. Enveloped by the will of the All-Cade Star, Huaguang's strength skyrocketed. On the other hand, Shinko and Kuroha had just broken through to the lower emptiness realm 20 years ago. It was hard to tell who was stronger. Great Winged Heaven School, Golden Crow Dharma Body. Shinko and Kuroha roared with indignation. Wah! Above the sea of clouds of merit, the sound of a crow suddenly shook the sky. Dejun had the golden dragon of Providence, and the Great Winged Heaven School had the golden crow. The giant golden crow, formed by the virtuous virtue, suddenly flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Wah! The golden crow roared and charged towards Shinku and Kuroha. Boom! The golden crow and Tao Lord Black Feather suddenly merged into one. The golden crow's eyes suddenly became lively, as if it had come alive in an instant. Rumble! A vast pressure rushed towards Huaguang. The huge aura forced Huaguang back more than 1,000 feet. Strong winds blew around. Shinkuan Kuroha, who had merged with the Golden Crow, glared at Huoguang as if he wanted to tear Huoguang apart. Chapter 694. Whoosh! Huoguang stepped back and shot toward the 3 million soldiers of the Great Jin army. At this moment, the 3 million-strong army had already begun to move, quickly forming a new formation. Qing Long, White Tiger, Rose Finch, Xuanwu, Rumble. The 3 million soldiers led by Qing Long and the other three formed the four-symbol formation. Suddenly, the surroundings were filled with fog. Huoguang rushed straight in. Trying to escape? Oof. The Golden Crow roared angrily, spread its wings, and pounced into the formation. Rumble. The formation suddenly churned nonstop. The interior rumbled nonstop. The Golden Crow was trapped. It was Shinkuin Kuroha's first time mobilizing the Golden Crow, so he was not very familiar with it. Even so, he was invincible in the formation. Ah, big brother! Screams came from the formation. Clearly, the Great Jin army did not have the upper hand in the formation. Should I help them? Emoyushi asked worriedly. No need. Yin Chuan shook his head. He looked at the virtuous cloud sea. At this moment, without the Golden Crow's wings, the virtuous cloud sea's endless virtuous virtue was quickly draining away. Kill. Mine. Haha. That's a 7th grade artifact. The Great Winged Heaven School. Shouts of killing could be heard from all directions. Flames rose everywhere, and smoke rose into the sky. At this moment, the Great Winged Heaven School was completely defeated. Help! Bastard! A large number of Great Winged Heaven School disciples cried out in grief. Boom! At this moment, a mountain peak of the Great Winged Heaven School suddenly exploded. A ray of white light shot into the sky. A white-haired man dressed in white rushed out with a look of surprise in his eyes. Another one. Kill! Excited roars came from all directions. Don't! That's true monarch White Feather. Someone suddenly cried out in alarm. Humph! The white-haired man snorted coldly. Suddenly, a powerful aura pressed down. Poof! 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 The charging experts all spat out mouthfuls of blood as they stared at true monarch White Feather in shock. True Lord White Feather did not immediately save anyone. Instead, he looked around at the virtuous cloud sea in the sky and the trapped Golden Crow in the distance. True monarch White Feather narrowed his eyes. Impudent! Why aren't you stopping? True monarch White Feather shouted. Hung! The furious roar sounded like thunder from the 9 heavens descending from the sky, causing the expressions of countless cultivators to change. The huge commotion caused the souls of countless cultivators to tremble. The battle suddenly stopped. The might of his voice was so powerful. Old Sect Master! Old Sect Master! A large number of disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School looked towards true monarch White Feather with wild joy. Countless commoners were shocked. Too powerful. Is this the power of the Middle Void stage? Suppressing nearly 200 million cultivators with a single roar? Countless commoners were panicking. Previously, when Shinkuin Kuroha was trapped, they thought that the Great Winged Heaven School was done for. But true monarch White Feather was still there. Why was he still there? True monarch White Feather's strength was deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. It was an irresistible force. Countless people suddenly felt regret. They should not have barged into the Great Winged Heaven School. They were all from the Great Jin dynasty. Almost everyone looked in the direction of Yin Chuan. It was all caused by Yin Chuan. Many people revealed worried and fearful expressions. Yin Chuan looked around, then looked at true monarch White Feather. Using his dermic powers, he shouted again, "My previous words still stand. I will personally deal with this true monarch White Feather." Chapter 695. Yin Chuan's words immediately calmed the hearts of the people. However, the people were still uneasy. Perfected Lord White Feather looked at Yin Chuan in the distance and narrowed his eyes. Old Sect Master, it's all Shinkuin Kuroha's fault for causing our Great Winged Heaven School to fall into its current state. Old Secmaster, it's great that you're still here. The great winged heaven school disciples found their backbone and were all excited. Who started this chaos? Perfected Lord White Feather's eyes turned cold. Him, Yin Chuan. Everyone quickly pointed out. Perfected Lord White Feather narrowed his eyes and stared at Yin Chuan in the distance. His eyes were extremely cold. In the distance, on a mountain peak, the 5 middle void realm experts that Yin Chuan invited looked at each other. Oh, perfected Lord White Feather? Does anyone want to make a move? A red-robed expert smiled. No need. Yin Chuan only invited us to deal with perfected Lord Great Feather. What does perfected Lord White Feather have to do with us? Moreover, this Yin Chuan is always unpredictable. What else does he have to rely on? Another person said. Yes. Everyone nodded and ignored him. Yin Chuan, perfected Lord White Feather, shouted coldly, clearly having never heard of this name. Shinku and Kuroha, what a bastard. A deity realm expert can also mess up the great winged heaven school like this? After being someone else's dog, you're worse than a dog? Perfected Lord White Feather looked at the trapped golden crow in the distance and said coldly. In the distance, Yin Chuan's body suddenly shone with a red light, and his hair quickly turned blood red. It grew rapidly, and a monstrous evil intent surged out. Rumble. The ground under Yin Chuan's feet suddenly sank, turning into a torrential sea of blood. Yin Chuan's hair was long, and his eyes were bloodshot. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. Waves of blood soared into the sky, surrounding Yin Chuan. In an instant, blood chi soared to the 9 heavens. Yin Chuan seemed to have transformed into a blood sea berserk demon, filled with raging devilish intent. Blood demon? The expressions of the people who had stopped talking suddenly changed. Someone recognized him. Around Yin Chuan, energy surged wildly as a surge of battle intent shot towards the distant true Lord White Feather. Oh! True Monarch White Feather's eyes narrowed. At this moment, Yin Chuan's strength skyrocketed. Blood Sea White Feather die, Yin Chuan shouted. He stepped on the waves of blood and soared into the sky. A sea of blood that covered an area of 50 kilometers surged towards the distant true Monarch White Feather. Wherever the sea of blood passed, the vegetation would wither. Yin Chuan wielded the Jade Emperor Sword and charged towards true Monarch White Feather. You're courting death. Perfected Lord White Feather's eyes turned cold as she flew over on the wind. She extended her hand, and suddenly, a huge palm print pressed down. The moment the Jade Emperor Sword appeared, it suddenly emitted a black light. Boom! The palm print was suddenly shattered by the Jade Emperor Sword. Jade Emperor Sword formation. Rumble. Surging sword chi suddenly erupted like a huge hurricane. Endless sword chi surged out and enveloped Yin Chuan, Blood Sea, and true Monarch White Feather. When the people saw this scene, they immediately calmed down. Boom! Boom! Within the Blood Sea Jade Emperor Sword formation, white light shone everywhere. Waves of impact seemed to want to shatter the sea of blood again and again. True Monarch White Feather, who was inside, was unusually fierce. Suddenly, a beam of light shot down from the sky. The beam of light shot straight towards the Jade Emperor Sword formation. Suddenly, the Jade Emperor Sword formation stabilized, and the huge sword formation immediately became firm. Star intent? You're just a deity. How can you have a star intent? True Monarch White Feather exclaimed from within the formation. Roar! There were even dragon roars coming from within the Blood Sea Jade Emperor Sword formation. On a mountain peak in the distance, 5 middle void realm experts narrowed their eyes. It seems that we've underestimated Yin Chuan, the red-robed expert said in a deep voice. Star intent. This old man has also just found his natal star. Yin Chuan and that Hua Guang actually both have them? Another person exclaimed in surprise. Old Hong, their natal stars might not be suitable for them. There's no need to be envious. Everyone sighed. On the mountain of the great winged heaven school, the leader of the group, Huang Bing, suddenly shouted, "True Monarch White Feather is under Yin Chuan's control. The Great Winged Heaven School is about to be destroyed. We've already offended the Great Winged Heaven School, and there's no way we can go back on our words. It's useless to regret it. Let's just destroy the Great Winged Heaven School and help the Zhen destroy the Great Winged Heaven School as soon as possible." Ha! Those disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School who are hiding have all come out. The 100,000 superior grade spirit stones are mine. After a short period of calmness, the situation became chaotic again. Chapter 696. The Great Winged Heaven School was destroyed. Rumble. After losing the Golden Crow Spear, the virtuous clouds of the Great Winged Heaven School started to disperse. Similarly, the Golden Crow was condensed from the virtuous clouds. As the virtuous clouds weakened, the Golden Crow's power also started to weaken. It was like a vicious cycle. If Shin Kuan Kuroha couldn't win in a short time, things would only get worse. One disciple after another was killed. The Great Winged Heaven School was about to be completely destroyed. Mo Yushi looked worriedly at the sea of blood enveloped by the Jade Emperor's sword formation. On the other side, the civilians were getting crazier and crazier. Many cultivators hung human heads on their waists. They were all spirit stones. Slaughter was everywhere. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School were forced to retreat. At this moment, there was no such thing as retreat. They just kept running. Help! No! Why is it like this? Screams could be heard everywhere. The civilians were also injured or killed. However, this didn't frighten them. It only made them more ferocious and merciless. It seemed that the Diu heavenly sect was going to be completely destroyed in this muddle-headed situation. Just as the virtuous clouds were about to decrease by more than half. Boom! At the main peak of the Great Winged Heaven School, Big Feather Peak. Suddenly, a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Creak! A cave suddenly opened, and a golden-robed figure walked out from within. The aura emitted by the golden-robed figure was even stronger than true monarch white feathers. The golden-robed figure slowly stepped out of the cave, and a powerful aura spread in all directions. Who is it? Some of the surrounding cultivators asked in horror. This was because they felt a great destructive power under this aura. It was as if this aura alone could crush everyone. Elder? Our Great Winged Heaven School has an elder? Immediately, a disciple of the Great Winged Heaven School said excitedly, "So strong, so terrifying." The golden-robed expert exuded a horrifying aura as he stood at the top of Great Feather Peak, overlooking the surroundings. His oppressive aura caused the souls of nearly 200 million cultivators to tremble in fear. Who is he? Why is he so strong? How is this possible? The surrounding commoners stopped in horror because the aura of the golden-robed man was too terrifying. The eyes of a lower void stage expert of the Great Winged Heaven School who was covered in blood suddenly lit up. I remember now. I have a painting of him in my sect master's hall. Ancestor, it's the ancestor. Great feathered true monarch. The emptiness realm expert roared. True Lord Great Feather. His voice wasn't loud, but it seemed to enter everyone's ears in an instant. Who was the Great Feather Lord? There was no need for him to explain. The founder of the Great Winged Heaven School and the number one person in the history of the Great Winged Heaven School. This title was like a sledgehammer that hammered into everyone's hearts. How is this possible? True Lord Diu. Why? How can the Great Winged Heaven School be so strong? The commoners panicked again. At this moment, they couldn't even think of resisting. True Lord Diu? The golden robe man was true Lord Diu? Almost everyone felt a strong rumble in their heads. Becoming enemies with true Lord Diu? What was the difference between that and seeking death? Ancestor, ancestor, ancestor. That's great. Ancestor. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School rushed over in ecstasy while crying. Chapter 697. True Lord White Feather had a high status in everyone's hearts, but no matter how high it was not as high as True Lord Diu. The entire Great Winged Heaven School was founded by him. How strong was he? True Lord Yu did not appear when Moku arrived last time, so the disciples did not know of his existence. Now that he appeared, it could be said that everyone was stunned. They were saved. No, not only were they saved, but all those who disobeyed the Great Winged Heaven School would be executed. All the disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School revealed looks of hatred. The golden-robed, true Lord Yu's eyes emitted a ray of golden light. The golden light was so dazzling that the surrounding cultivators could not open their eyes. Who destroyed my ocean of merits? True Lord Yu glared and asked. He looked straight at a cultivator. I. That person was inexplicably shocked. Boom! That cultivator suddenly exploded, and it was incomparably bloody. Countless people who were attacking the Great Winged Heaven School immediately panicked. True Lord Yu turned his gaze and suddenly looked at Yin Chuan's battlefield in the distance, then looked at Mo Yushi who was next to him. Phoenix! True Lord Yu raised his eyebrows. Ha ha! True Lord Yu, your bearing is indeed extraordinary. Suddenly, a burst of laughter came from the void. The laughter suddenly formed a wave of impact that suddenly messed up True Lord Yu's aura. Boom! 5 figures appeared around True Sovereign Yu. The 5 Middle Emptiness Realm experts suddenly surrounded True Sovereign Yu. Middle Void Realm? Who are you? True Lord Yu said coldly. World Margin Sect, Hong Yin. World Vast Sect, Han Jaimai. The 5 Middle Void Realm experts spoke at the same time. When the 5 of them reported their names, the expressions of the surrounding people changed. The 5 of them were not like True Lord Yu. Generally speaking, Middle Void Realm experts were known as the pillars of their respective sects, but True Lord Yu had strangely hidden and did not come out, giving people the feeling that he had died long ago. These 5 people were famous throughout the world. They were the strongest people in the world and were grandmasters of middle-level sections. The Great Winged Heaven School was the weakest middle-level sect in the East Divine Continent, but these 5 people came from 5 other middle-level sections. Ma Fei? Were they brought here by Yin Chuan? I've never heard of you. What do you want? True Lord Yu's eyes were filled with anger. It's nothing. I just want True Lord Yu to stay out of this battle, Hong Yin said. As soon as Hong Yin spoke, the surrounding disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School were terrified. Patriarch, don't listen to him. They're here to destroy our Great Winged Heaven School. Patriarch, save us. A group of Great Winged Heaven School disciples said anxiously. True Lord Yu looked at this group of people indifferently, as if his heart was very calm. In fact, in the eyes of True Lord Yu, he didn't seem to have much affection for the Great Winged Heaven School that he had founded. I don't cause trouble, but you came to provoke me? You're courting death. True Lord Yu's eyes suddenly narrowed. Courting death? True Lord Yu, you and I are both in the Middle Void Realm, and we don't want to make things difficult for you. It doesn't matter who you find trouble with in half a month, but for half a month, stand still. Hong Yin shouted. Oomph. True Lord Yu glared. Boom. True Lord Yu stretched out his hand and hit Hong Yin with a palm. A golden palm suddenly slammed towards Hong Yin. Hong Yin immediately raised his sword and slashed. Boom! The palm and sword collided, and Hong Yin was immediately sent flying with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Chapter 698. Whoosh! True Lord Yu chased after Hong Yin. He attacked Hong Yin again. The battle between the two of them instantly caused the other 4 Middle Void Stage experts to join in as well. The purpose of the 5 Middle Void State cultivators was to trap perfected Lord Yu for half a month and lure him to Yanjin. Boom! True Lord Yu didn't seem to care about the lives of the Great Winged Heaven School's disciples. He just followed after them. As soon as True Lord Yu left, the disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School shuddered. Kill! Yin Chuan found 5 peerless experts. True Lord Yu will definitely die. Kill! Huang Bing shouted in the crowd again. At that moment, everyone knew that if the Great Winged Heaven School didn't die, they would die. They had to die. They had to die. If it was for the spirit stones in the beginning, it was now to get rid of them. Kill, kill, kill. It was a fierce battle. True Lord Du didn't seem to care about the lives of the great winged heaven school's disciples at all. He fought with the 5 experts. Of course, the 5 experts didn't let True Lord Du interfere in the battle at all. Kill, kill, kill. Everyone was killing crazily. After an entire day, boom, the Blood Sea Jade Emperor's sword array that Yin Chuan was in collapsed. True Lord White Feather's head flew out, and the Blood Sea disappeared. Yin Chuan's hair recovered, but his body was full of injuries. He fell to the ground. Yin Chuan's injuries were very serious, and he was weak. However, True Lord White Feather was killed in the end. Yin Chuan, how are you? Mou, she held Yin Chuan worriedly. I'm fine. I'm just a little injured. Now, take me back to Yin Jin. Yin Chuan said. Okay. Mou, she nodded. She carried Yin Chuan into the sky and flew across the battlefield in the blink of an eye. Mou, she suddenly let out a long cry. With a sway of his body, he transformed into a 200 feet long black phoenix. Dark Phoenix. With Yin Chuan on her back, Dark Phoenix flapped her wings and turned into a ray of light that quickly disappeared over the horizon. Then he shot toward Yin Jing. As the merit of the great winged heaven school dissipated, Shin Kuan Kuroha, who was trapped by the 4 symbols formation, finally couldn't hold on any longer. No! It was a loud wail. The 4 symbols grand formation broke apart with a loud bang. Golden light shot out in all directions as boundless merits exploded. Inside, of the 3 million soldiers, only 8 million were still alive, and most of them were heavily injured. Hua Guang's spear pierced through Shin Kuan Kuroha's chest. Along with it, a roll of Tian Su also broke. Boom! All the merit of the Great Winged Heaven School dissipated. Today, the Great Winged Heaven School was destroyed. The people saw the merit clouds in the sky completely explode, and they gradually stopped what they were doing. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School were also killed. Looking at the desolate Great Winged Heaven School, no one could laugh at that moment. At this moment, almost everyone felt a sense of emptiness. No one believed that this was caused by them. Everyone gradually calmed down. After calming down, they realized that everyone seemed to have lost something. They turned their heads and looked at the army of the great Jin dynasty in the distance. True Lord White Feather's corpse and Shin Kuan Kuroha's corpse. How ironic it all seemed. More than half of the army of the great Jin dynasty had been killed or injured. However, another army of the great Jin dynasty walked out of the forest in the distance. Led by Yifeng, another 1,000,000 soldiers slowly stepped into the messy battlefield. Lord Hua, thank you for your hard work, Yifeng said solemnly. Hua Guang's body was full of injuries as he said solemnly, I'll have to trouble you to clean up the mess. Lord Hua, take the First Legion to rest. I'll take care of everything, Yifeng said. Chapter 699. Great Jin Dynasty, Yin Capital. Roar. The cry of a phoenix could be heard. A commotion broke out in the Skyward Palace Square. A large number of guards rushed into the Skyward Palace Square. They thought that an enemy had invaded. When they saw Yin Chuan and Mou, she descending from the sky in the center of the square, all the guards bowed respectfully. Greetings, Your Majesty. All the guards said respectfully. You may leave, Yin Chuan said lightly. Yes. The soldiers quickly retreated. We're finally back. Mou, she said tiredly. It's been hard on you these past few days, Yin Chuan said emotionally. Looking at Yin Chuan, Mou, she's tiredness disappeared, and she smiled happily. Your Majesty. Lu Jin walked over quickly. Meow. Yin Chuan, why are you covered in blood? Meow also ran over quickly. Yin Chuan did not answer. Instead, he looked up at the sky. In the sky, the great Jin dynasty's providence had increased by more than 10 times. The surging providence was churning nonstop. The golden dragon of providence, which was originally 10,000 feet long, had now grown to 20,000 feet long. Moreover, It seemed more solid and strong. 10 times the providence was surging. It was a spectacular sight. Yin Chuan smiled with satisfaction. Great Jun had finally grown stronger. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Yin Chuan returned early. He washed up, changed into a clean set of clothes, and sat in front of the Skyward Palace Square. The dragon throne was placed in the Skyward Palace Square. Behind it stood the civil and military officials. Yin Chuan was flipping through some information on a table in front of him. She stood at the side with Miao in her arms. The Great Winged Heaven School has already been destroyed. Why are you still looking at the history of the Great Winged Heaven School? She asked curiously. There's something strange. Yin Chuan shook his head. Oh, Lord Great Winged Heaven, why have you been hiding ever since you founded the Great Winged Heaven School? Even if the Great Winged Heaven School was controlled by Ku, True Lord Yu was still indifferent? This isn't right. Yin Chuan frowned. She nodded. That's right. Back then, when Heavenly Son Ku stirred up chaos in the Great Winged Heaven School and forced True Monarch Whitefeather to abdicate and support Shinku and Kuroa, True Monarch Great Wing didn't show up at all. His own sect was robbed by someone else, and he didn't do anything about it? Very strange. Secondly, this True Lord Yu seems to be too antisocial. Yin Chuan said with a frown. Oh, there aren't many historical records of True Lord Yu. In a heavenly bestowment conference, he won the Tian Su and established a lesser sect. Then, in a short 3 years, he destroyed 100 lesser sections. He didn't kill them all, but subdued them and expanded the Great Winged Heaven School. Then, with the fastest speed possible, he promoted it to a middle sect. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Not many years after becoming a middle sect, True Lord Yu abdicated and disappeared. In other words, he went into seclusion. Yin Chuan continued. Yes, it's very strange. All the major sects in the world have middle void realm experts overseeing a region. Yet, there's no news of him at all. She said strangely. You saw True Lord Yu that day. At that time, True Lord Yu said that he didn't recognize the 5 middle void realm experts I found. Why? It means that he doesn't care about the world at all. Yin Chuan said. Yes. Most importantly, when he came out of seclusion that day, what was the first thing he said? Yin Chuan asked. He said, who destroyed my merit? She narrowed her eyes as she recalled the past. When he came out of seclusion, what he cared about the most wasn't the life and death of a sect, but the merit of the sky. This also explains why True Lord Yu didn't come out of seclusion when Son of Heaven Ku turned the Great Winged Heaven School upside down. That's because the merit of the Great Winged Heaven School wasn't damaged. Yin Chuan said with certainty. Chapter 700. She's expression changed. Boom! Just as Yin Chuan and She were talking, there was a sudden roar outside Yinjin. From afar, a strong wind could be seen. Sand and stones were flying. Many of the officials of Great Jun showed fear, but Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. They're here, She said. Then, she carried Miao and retreated to the side. Lu Jin ordered someone to move the table in front of Yin Chuan away. Yin Chuan stared into the distance. With Yin Chuan's eyesight, he could see clearly. 5 middle void stage cultivators were surrounding Lord Yu. However, True Lord Yu's appearance had changed completely. It transformed into a huge golden crow with 3 legs. Its entire body emitted a golden light in all directions. As it flapped its wings, a fierce wind rose. Rays of feather-like golden light shot out in all directions, forcing the 5 middle void stage martial artists to retreat again and again. Boom! Boom! When a 3-legged golden crow flapped its wings, a large number of mountains collapsed. When the golden crow's claws touched them, they shattered. 3-legged golden crow? Is there really such a race in the world? Yin Chuan said in surprise. Boom! Another loud roar came from afar. The 5 middle void stage cultivators retreated. Lord Yu, half a month has passed. We won't stop you anymore. The one who destroyed your Great Winged Heaven School, is Yin Xuan of Great Jin Dynasty. We're sorry for what happened. One of the middle void stage cultivators said. Whoosh! The 5 middle void stage cultivators flew away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! The 3-legged golden crow suddenly turned its head and looked at Yin Jin. To be precise, it looked at the Sea of Providence of Great Jin Dynasty. Roar! With a dragon roar that pierced the sky, the golden dragon of Great Jin's Providence suddenly twisted again. Its eyes gradually became lively. Yin Xuan's will once again entered the golden dragon of Providence. With the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School, the Great Jin Dynasty's Providence suddenly skyrocketed, and the golden dragon of Providence also became stronger. Below Yanjing City, Bai Ditian looked up at the sky and sighed. Ooh! The 3-legged golden crow flapped its wings and arrived in front of him. Roar! The golden dragon of Providence stomped its claw and flew out of the Sea of Providence, blocking the 3-legged golden crow. Along the way, the emptiness realm expert among the 5 people already told me that it was you. You destroyed my great winged heaven school? The golden crow said angrily. Yes, your majesty, the golden dragon of destiny replied. The dragon head stared at the golden crow without backing down. Good. I didn't provoke you, but you actually dared to provoke me. You're courting death. The 3-legged golden crow said coldly. Ha! Do you think you can hurt me? The golden dragon sneered. Great Jin Dynasty? You're just a dynasty. If you were an imperial dynasty, I wouldn't be able to do anything to you. However, you're just a dynasty. The golden dragon of Providence is just a dynasty's golden dragon. The 3-legged golden crow shouted. As it spoke, the golden crow's wings suddenly swept over. As it swept over, it seemed to sweep over a golden river. The dragon swung its tail and collided with the wings. Honk! The violent collision resounded through heaven and earth. The huge tremor caused countless people in Yanjing to fall to the ground. Roar! Wah! Roar! The dragon and the crow suddenly tore at each other, and a dazzling golden light bloomed. Countless dermic powers erupted in various forms. In the sky, the golden light enveloped the dragon and the crow as if they had formed a huge sun. The dragon and the crow fought, and the strong light became more and more dazzling. In the blink of an eye, countless cultivators couldn't look directly at it. Chapter 701. Rumble. The entire Yanjin seemed to be trembling. The 5 middle void state cultivators who had left earlier returned and landed on a mountain peak in the distance. The golden dragon of Providence? It's on par with perfected feather? A middle void state cultivator said with a complicated expression. Perfected feather strength is far beyond our expectations. If we were to fight him one-on-one, we wouldn't be able to defeat him. The golden dragon of Providence? It seems to be a lot thicker than the last time, but it's still a little weaker. The 5 of them frowned as they watched. A dragon and a crow were fighting in the sun. You're not strong enough. I'll tear you apart. Wah! The 3-legged golden crow roared. You're right. Unfortunately, you've forgotten that this is Yanjin, my home ground. The golden dragon of Providence roared. Roar! The golden dragon of Providence roared. Roar! 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 Countless dragon roars were heard from all around Yanjin. The dragon veins all let out dragon roars, as if they were responding to the golden dragon of Providence. The power of the dragon veins shot into the sky and went straight for the sun in the sky. Rumble. The golden dragon of Dejun's Providence's strength skyrocketed once again. The golden dragon of Providence's body expanded again. Roar. Boom! The original golden dragon of Providence's power skyrocketed, and the power of the dragon and the crow reached a balance in the blink of an eye. In fact, the power of the golden dragon of Providence was slightly stronger. The golden crow's claw against the dragon's claw. Boom! The golden crow's wing against the dragon's tail. Boom! The battle was getting more and more intense. The 3-legged golden crow said awkwardly, Dynasty? Someone in this world can use the power of a dynasty to such an extent? I've said that this is my home ground. Let's see how I'll deal with you. The golden dragon said confidently. Arrogant. Who can deal with me? No one can do anything to me. The three-legged golden crow said arrogantly. Great heavenly seal, the golden dragon said coldly. Boom! A huge black seal suddenly appeared on the dragon's claw. The bottom and top of the black seal were golden. The seal grew larger and larger, as if a mountain was pressing down. The three-legged golden crow looked up and saw 8 golden words in the darkness, as if the sky had collapsed. Receiving the mandate of heaven, long live and prosperous. Wow! The golden crow roared angrily at the seal in the sky. Then an intense golden light shot towards the great heavenly seal like a golden river. Boom! The golden light shattered on its own, as if it couldn't shake the great heavenly seal at all. How is that possible? Your imperial seal shouldn't be so powerful. It shouldn't be. The three-legged golden crow cried out in shock. Huh! A loud boom rang out as the great heavenly stabilizing seal slammed into the three-legged gold crow. It ruthlessly suppressed the three-legged golden crow. No, bastard. If it weren't for the fact that I'm injured, you wouldn't have been able to... The golden dragon of Providence slowly descended from the sky and landed on the Sea of Providence. Bam! The Sea of Providence churned as the golden dragon of Providence stepped on the great heavenly seal. The great heavenly seal pierced the three-legged golden crow below. What kind of treasure is that? It actually pierced true Lord Dayu? A middle void realm cultivator on a distant mountain said in shock. The 5 middle void realm cultivators' expressions immediately changed. The 5 of them understood that they were no match for true Lord Dayu if they were alone. However, the powerful true Lord Dayu had actually been pierced by Yin Chuan. Thinking of this, everyone's belittling of Yin Chuan instantly vanished. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Did we do something wrong? Chapter 702. Half a year later. The opening of the city lord's mansion. Yifeng looked at the 3 men in front of him. All of you are the deity realm. In the future, the first city will belong to the great Jin dynasty. If there are any matters in the city, I'll have to trouble all of you to help. Yifeng smiled. Lord Yi, you're too courteous. I believe that under the management of the Grand Jin dynasty, the premier city will definitely prosper. A man said with a smile. That's right. Lord Yi, those commoners have already exchanged their spirit stones. What about us? Another man asked worriedly. That's right. Although that emptiness realm expert went berserk when he was in seclusion and we took advantage of him, but the 3 of them were slightly worried. Yifeng waved his hand. Immediately, more than a dozen soldiers carried 3 huge chests over. Yifeng smiled and said, Since His Majesty has spoken, he will definitely keep his word. It's up to you to decide how to distribute these 100,000 upper spiritual stones. The 3 of them immediately walked up and looked at the boxes of high-grade spirit stones. Their breathing quickened. Thank you, Lordy. The 3 of them were so excited that all the pores on their bodies opened up. Finally, it was his turn. Everyone is wrong. This has nothing to do with me. If you want to thank someone, thank my emperor. Yifeng said with a smile. The 3 of them nodded and said, Thank you, your majesty. No, the 3 of you, don't be mistaken. Great Jun. All of you are also citizens of Great Jun. Yifeng laughed. Ha ha ha, yes. The 3 of them looked at the spirit stones. Naturally, everything was negotiable. My emperor killed true monarch White Feather and even raped true monarch Great Feather in Yinjing. The 3 of you know about this, right? Yifeng smiled. I've heard a little about it. The 3 nodded solemnly. De Jun's strength was now deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. The Great Jin dynasty is a place where all kinds of talents are welcome. If the 3 of you are interested, you can take part in the imperial examinations of the Great Jin dynasty, regardless of whether it's the literary examination, the martial examination, or the miscellaneous examination. They can all become officials of the Great Jin Empire, said Yifeng. Well, think about it. The 3 of them said immediately. No problem. Yifeng nodded. Skyward Hall. The 5 middle void stage experts looked at Yin Chuan with a slightly complicated expression. Beside Yin Chuan stood Mo Yushi, Hua Guang, Lu Gang, and Qing Long. On a jade platform in front of him, there were 5 brocade boxes. Primeval Chaos Bell, Heart-Shocking Sword, Heartless Pagoda, Limitless Mirror, and Deep Serene Ring. 5 quasi-immortal artifacts. You can distribute them as you wish, Yin Chuan said with a smile. The 5 of them frowned as they looked at Yin Chuan. After each of them picked one, the 5 of them had slightly complicated expressions. Thank you, everyone, Yin Chuan said with a smile. The 5 of them nodded and said with complicated expressions, farewell. Yin Chuan smiled. The 5 of them didn't say anything and just walked out of the hall. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. Your Majesty, these 5 quasi-immortal artifacts are given to them just like that, Lu Gang said with a look of unwillingness. Lu Gang's horizons had been broadened. Although many magic treasures were nothing in his eyes, these were quasi-immortal artifacts. In a middle sect, they were the most precious treasures. They had obtained them with great difficulty, but they were given away just like that. Lu Gang felt his heart ache. The Great Jin Dynasty is still the Great Jin Dynasty after all. If we keep these 5 treasures, too many people will be jealous. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, but they're just safe keeping them. One day, these 5 treasures will belong to the Great Jin Dynasty again, Yin Chuan said with certainty. Yes, Lu Gang took a deep breath and said. Chapter 703. Your Great Jin Dynasty's providence is about to catch up with Julu Academy. Can it be promoted to Imperial Dynasty China yet? Mo Yushi asked curiously. Not yet. Yin Chuan shook his head. Does that mean we can just conquer another middle-rank sect? Lu Gang asked curiously. Imperial Dynasty China, Imperial Dynasty China, and Celestial Dynasty. Lu Gang now knew these names. Naturally, he knew that Imperial Dynasty China was the corresponding middle-tier sect. Was Great Jin still lacking? Yin Chuan shook his head. This time, the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School has already made the surrounding sects sensitive. We should focus on recuperating. Consolidate Great Jin's power first. Yes, Lu Gang nodded. Hua Guang. After the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School, there are many mortal kingdoms in their territory. You will be in charge of flattening these kingdoms and unifying Great Jin, Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes, Hua Guang acknowledged. After arranging everyone, Yin Chuan and Mo Yu, she slowly walked out of the Skyward Hall. The 2 of them walked quietly. I'm leaving soon. Mo Yu, she looked a little disappointed. Yin Chuan gently grabbed Mo Yushi's hand. The 2 of them looked at each other. Mo Yushi's eyes flashed with affection. Yin Chuan's eyes also flashed with tenderness. Gently, Yin Chuan hugged Mo Yushi. Mo Yushi's body trembled. Yin Chuan hugged her tightly. After a while, Mo Yushi's body finally calmed down. She enjoyed this moment of tranquility even more. I won't stop you from inheriting your father's things, but be careful, Yin Chuan said solemnly. Mo Yushi replied softly. I have already told Bai Ditian to send 4 Tiger Tribe Great Demons to follow you. Together with Qing Long and the others, there are 8 Emptiness Realm experts. They will ensure your safety, Yin Chuan said softly. Mo Yushi's heart was filled with sweetness. From start to finish, Yin Chuan did not thank Mo Yushi for her help during this period of time, because there was no need to. The 2 hugged for a while before letting go of each other and smiling at each other. Hand in hand, they stood together at a railing and watched the sun set. Meow, when are you leaving? Meow immediately jumped over. When Meow jumped over, Mo Yushi panicked slightly and loosened her grip. Boom! Meow jumped onto Mo Yushi's shoulder. When are we leaving? When are we leaving? Meow shouted. Meow, are you really going? Yin Chuan laughed. Of course, Sister Mo's father has immortal stones. Meow, immortal stones. Even supreme grade spirit stones cannot compare. Sister Mo is going back to inherit her father's inheritance. I meow meow. Meow started to fantasize. Looking at Meow, Yin Chuan laughed bitterly. Don't spoil it too much. I am willing. Mo, she said mischievously. Meow. Sister Mo gave me immortal stones, not you. Meow. Meow looked angrily at Yin Chuan. All right, go. Don't cause trouble for you, she. Also, when I have a clan contract. If you are in a hurry, you can teleport to me. Be careful, Yin Chuan said. Mo, she nodded. Qing Long. Yin Chuan shouted into the distance. Soon, Qing Long, Bai Long, and the others ran over. There were also 4 very capable women. Protect you, she, Yin Chuan said to everyone. Yes, everyone answered. Mo, she looked at Yin Chuan reluctantly, turned around, and flew into the sky. The 8 people followed closely behind. Mo, she did not turn back. She was afraid that if she did, she would cry. Meow, meow, meow. Meow was very excited. The excited shout slowly eased the sadness of Mo, she's parting. After sending Mo, she off, Yin Chuan sighed softly. At some point, Bai Ditian appeared beside Yin Chuan. I have already chosen the Tiger Tribe's base. It will be west of Yinjing, Bai Ditian said. Yin Chuan looked at Bai Ditian and nodded. Bai Ditian's words confirmed one thing. From now on, the Tiger Tribe was willing to advance and retreat together with the Great Jin Dynasty. What are your plans now? Bai Ditian asked curiously. Rest and recuperate. I will change the sect-oriented mindset of the people in the Great Jin Dominion to that of the country. First, I will strengthen the country. Then I will work slowly. Yin Chuan said. Bai Ditian nodded. What do you plan to do with perfected Lord Yu? Bai Ditian asked curiously. What do you think? Yin Chuan smiled. I feel that you want to subdue him, but this person is very stubborn. It seems very difficult. Bai Ditian said. I don't like weaklings. Yin Chuan smiled. Bai Ditian immediately understood what Yin Chuan meant. Let's do it for a while first. We'll talk about it later. Yin Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Okay. Bai Ditian nodded. The Great Jin Dynasty had destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School. The news seemed to have grown wings as it quickly spread in all directions. Dynasty? It was already strange enough that a dynasty had appeared in the East Divine Continent. At this moment, the dynasty that no one thought highly of had actually destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School in such a short time. Perfected Lord Yu had even been kidnapped in Yinjing. Countless cultivators were stunned when they heard the news. It was as if they couldn't believe it. Wasn't this too exaggerated? News of this event was written on the desks of the sect masters of the various major sections. However, the news seemed so simple. Many details were unknown. Therefore, a large number of cultivators were sent to the territory of the Great Jin Dynasty to search for information. Gradually, the news of the Zhidong Qian Bank and the #1 school in the world were exposed. Although Great Jin didn't admit it, many people suspected that it was planned by the Great Jin Dynasty. Otherwise, how could there be so many coincidences? The news continued to spread. The scam of the Zhidong Qian Bank also quickly spread everywhere. Countless people with brains learned from this scam and started to do it again. However, the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School alerted everyone. Wherever the Zhidong Qian Bank appeared, it would be destroyed by the various sects. After all, it was something that could shake the foundation of everyone. Everyone felt a sense of fear. Great Jin had destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School. They also occupied a position in the East Divine Land. In particular, Perfected Lord Yu was still in Yinjing, so the surrounding sects didn't dare to act rashly. Great Jin was still developing in an orderly manner. Yinjing. In the upper study, a map was spread out in front of Yin Chuan. It was one of the 3 things that Yin Tao had left for Yin Chuan. It was a map. A giant mine? A giant mine that can let the Yin clan eat for 10,000 years? I'm already an immortal state warrior. I can go and get it. What exactly is it? Yin Chuan's eyes flashed with anticipation. After all these years, Yin Chuan had a certain understanding of his father, whom he had never met before. He was also an extremely generous person. If it could make his father be careful, it must be an extraordinary giant mind. While Yin Chuan was thinking, Lu Jin's voice suddenly came from outside the study. Your Majesty, perfected Lord Yu, is about to die. Lu Jin's voice had a hint of anxiety. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.